Hey guys, welcome back to Right Guys, episode
Hey.
3. Today we've got a guest. We have Shane Blay, Micah's
Yeah,
absolute
buddy.
best friend and someone who I know
That's
pretty
my
well.
best friend. That's my best friend.
What else are we doing? Go on.
So we're gonna hop in and get to know Shane a lot better. We've talked about him a lot. We're also gonna do a deep dive on one of his songs from Wovenwar. It was mind blowing for me, and really we get deep and touch on some important issues there.
Yeah, it is a really cool song thematically.
Yeah, and then we transition into world building.
Yes. We do talk
Inspired.
a good bit about world building. Yeah.
And inspired off of a really cool comment that someone left on Instagram saying that we should get into some instrumental discussions about instrumental writing, and that took us down a rabbit hole.
Yep, we talk about some other Sleeper songs, some other ways of thinking about songwriting. I'm going to talk about the Right Guys theme a little bit too.
And then we go into personal projects, the world building and personal projects. We get to know a lot about projects that Shane has going on. We got projects that Ben's written as well. And then we play a game of Abstract Armory, a new segment where we're going to draw some fantastic weapons.
Yeah,
And
we've invented some good ones this time.
yeah, buddy. And then we're going to hit over those challenges from last week, that but then. And
Yes, sir. We're going to read the challenges that we wrote, which were sort of these time zone altered classic tales, and they were a lot of fun to read through.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Shane's going to blow your mind too.
Yeah, Shane did one, which was awesome. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Shane. And then introducing the challenge for the next episode. We're going to sort of talk a little bit about that, maybe a little bit tied in with the segment, but you'll see when we get there. But don't turn your TVs off until you get to the end, or else you won't know about the challenge.
That's right. Or until we just post about it in a couple weeks later.
Yeah, you'll see about it.
We always do.
Yeah.
So anyway, without further ado, this is Right Guys, episode 3.
All right, let's jump in.
Bada bing, boop. All right, here we go. Episode 3, guys.
Welcome back to the table. Welcome to Right Guys.
Here we are. It is good to be back in the bar.
Yeah, it is.
Oh man, so we've got an awesome episode lined up. We've got our first guest ever, Shane Blay, waiting in the wings. But before we get to all that, Ben, what is on your mind?
Honestly, this week, well, I watched, I watched Titanic for the first time.
For the first time?
Yeah.
Well, you're welcome.
Technically, I think I had seen it at some point in my youth, but I really was not paying attention and was not invested. And dude, it's a really good movie.
It is, isn't
I
it?
was shocked. I was like,
Man.
I was in the middle of it. I looked at Julia and I was like, the romance plot in this is actually really good. Right? And she was like, yeah, it's Titanic. And I was like, all right, you haven't seen Titanic either. We're in this together. But it was yeah, it was super good. But I saw Titanic, and it honestly, there were moments in it that freaked me out. So it's not a scary movie, but it does create tension really effectively.
Oh, yeah.
And so what I've been just kind of tripping out on recently, and even continuing our discussion from last week on horror movies, because I feel in some senses, when I watch horror movies, that I'm not ever going to be scared by one again, because it's I just am desensitized to the idea of just constant imminent threats being like
Yeah.
part of what's going on, and then it just becomes like background noise, and it's like, I don't know, for me maybe I lose immersion somehow.
I think
But,
also like being addicted to high stress games
yeah.
probably dulls the senses a little bit to that too.
Maybe, but then you can be lulled into immersion in scenarios like in Titanic. But where I did find myself frightened in moments, but I watched we just started the show Nine Perfect Strangers. Have you heard of this show?
No, I haven't.
Have you seen Midsummer?
Oh, not yet.
Yeah.
That
I mean-
slipped. I meant to watch that like months ago.
All right, well, yeah, definitely not intending to spoil anything about either one, but like just this show, Nine Perfect Strangers, that I guess it had hype around it. We really like the person who made it. They've made other shows that we like, and so we were kind of excited for it, but then didn't watch it when it came out, and we just started it, and it's crazy, dude. Like it's
Nice.
legit like the best of the year so far for me, and it's like it's super super similar to Midsummer, and it's just not what I was expecting from the show at all.
Is it like horror?
It's
or-
definitely tapping into that. Like it really fringes on the edges of it, and it's, to me, the scariest thing that I've seen in a long time. Where
Dang.
it's like the things that scare you are like the look that you see on a character's face at the end of the scene that's just like really creepy.
Oh,
like,
okay.
And it's like chilling. Like it just like sends a little chill down your neck, and it's like, God, like I don't like this scenario. There's just a lot of like tension underneath the surface, and it's just like super uncomfortable, kind of psychologically weird too. So
Okay.
yeah.
So Midsummer and Nine Perfect Strangers and Titanic are all kind of just swirling around in your head right now. That's an interesting mix.
Yeah, specifically Titanic and Nine Perfect Strangers, especially. I've been just thinking about fear, tension, how to create tension. Something I'm super interested in stories. Like I think horror really is getting to the root and maybe pushing too far beyond the reason we do go to stories in the first place. I think, or a lot of the reason, which is like to find an escape of something that is like more dramatic or more tense than our reality. Which
That's
I guess
interesting.
is maybe definitely not all the time, just some experiences of art. But
Well, it's interesting that in such a comfort culture that we live in, where nobody wants to be uncomfortable, nobody wants to be scared, nobody wants to like face any danger, like the entertainment industry, like we'll totally run to something to terrify us though, and that's entertaining as long as it's not like real, as long as we can turn it off. But maybe there's like some part of us that longs for that adrenaline boost that only fear can like pull out of you.
for sure.
But dude, Titanic with tension building, like even the fact of like a sinking steel ship with all the like the moans and groans as it's like breaking and everything, like it totally
Yeah,
works
dude.
with that.
Like there's a scene with, it was like Rose just alone in like the dark. It was like all the lights go out for a second when she's like down in like, the dungeons or whatever.
Yeah,
And like this
the
like,
bowels of the ship.
super long, deep like whale type like groan. And then like the lights come back on, and it's just like almost a full minute of like darkness that you just sit there.
Man, I'm so glad you now have Titanic in your repertoire.
Yeah.
So what's been on my mind is I finished a book yesterday.
Congratulations. What
thank
is that?
you very much.
Number 26.
I think this is like 27 or 28. Thanks to Shane.
It is a real hard book.
It is
Damn.
called Foundation by Isaac Asimov. I recently started diving into the kind of criterion of classic sci-fi, and Isaac Asimov is one of the kind of prophets of science fiction. He wrote this thing it was released in 1950, or the first stories out of it was released in 1942, and then it was officially published in like 51 or something. And you think about the culture back then, and like what he predicted is so like you're just nodding your head the entire way through, like, oh yeah, this is like gonna be around the next corner. This is what would happen, and it's really interesting. It's a lot of politics, like future politics, but it's interesting how the book kind of jumps like 50 years in the future ever so often. So you'll like get to know a character, and then it jumps, and then it jumps again, and by the time it jumps again, that character is like a legend, and then it keeps jumping, and then it's really, really interesting book. I totally get why it's in the criterion of sci-fi. Highly recommend Foundation. And yeah, I'm stoked to put this one on my shelf.
Yeah, that's cool. I've only read a few. Actually, I think I've only read one sci-fi series or book, The Three Body Problem, but it has a very similar pacing where like in like all of a sudden it's just a new generation of characters basically at different moments, and it's crazy. And I mean, obviously the way sci-fi plays with time, they can make those like grand things happen in different ways. So like it's always a pleasure to see. We've talked about having time as a
yes,
topic on a
that's going to
future
show
episode.
up, and man, I'm going to be talking about Foundation when we do for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what's been on my mind. Why don't we bring our guest on? What do you say? We've got him. We're going to port him in through live feed.
Wings.
Waiting in the wings. We're going to port him in live feed on the TV up here. Let's see if we can bring Shane in here. What channel is he on? And there he is.
Hey,
there you are.
Hey guys.
That's my best bud, y'all.
Hey best
it's
bud.
so good to see you, Shane.
Yeah, you too, bud. I've said bud a bunch.
Yeah, you've
Watching too
got
much
like
Canadian TV.
5 or 6 already. It's only been 30 seconds.
Yeah, hey there, buds. Just been up in the bush, doing my thing.
Well, everybody listening, if you've listened to the past couple episodes and you've heard many mentions of Shane throughout, he is one of Ben and I both's best friends, and the three of us are kind of a trifecta. Like we all met together and forged our friendships together, and we've been integral parts of each of our individual friendships with each other. So little intro on Shane. Shane is the singer and lead guitarist of Oh Sleeper. And he is also the lead singer and a guitarist in Wovenwar. He also has multiple projects, some in development. He's got a project he released a little while ago called A Nullaby. And he also plays in my 90s country cover band. And we get to gig on weekends together.
The best of all our stuff.
Yeah. But Shane and I are looking down the barrel of a 15-year friendship. I think we're at 15 years.
I think we're at... Yeah. God, that's
crazy.
I think we're skirting on 16.
Yeah, it's getting close. And you and Ben now have known each other for...
Since 2015, I think.
Yeah, and on y'all's last podcast, Ben corrected you about how him and I came about. We had played Bloodborne endlessly.
Yeah.
And it was
so messed up. I'm so jealous.
But it was, it'd be till 4 o'clock in the morning or something, and the only sound I would have in my headphones is Ben's just droning this voice telling me the lore of Bloodborne and of Ludwig and all that.
Yeah.
We just got to know each other.
Oh, do you have to farm blood vials? Okay.
Yeah, I think at the beginning you pretended that you didn't have a mic so that you wouldn't have to commit to talking to this random person online. So
I do that all the time. I was going to do that for this podcast,
but... So that's why I was monologuing lore to him, because he was like, just give me like he's just like texting me every 5 minutes, give me like an audiobook version of this area.
But he provided, so.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, so I wanted to actually kind of kick in to bringing Shane on by asking some questions from our listeners. We put it out there on last episode that we were going to have Shane on, and that if you sent in some questions for him, we'd throw them at him and see what happens. So I'll start it out. This is from Marianne. Hi, I'm Marianne, and I'm a big O Sleeper fan. I'm so excited you're on the show, Shane. How much do you contribute to songwriting for O Sleeper? How about for Wovenwar?
Well, with O Sleeper, I'd say a lot. The way me and Micah write is usually I'll have the music idea, and I don't like to show Micah ideas until they're, 90%. So I'll have a full-fledged, these days I'll have a full-fledged demo that usually sounds better than our records. Send it to him so he can write lyrics over it. And if I'm singing on a part, we'll usually, discuss the lyrics there. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. And then in Wovenwar, some songs I wrote fully the music for, and then most of the time the guys would send me demos as I do with Micah, and I would sit there and that was my bad. Come up with melodies for it, and then me and Josh would come up with harmony schemes and all that good stuff. But yeah, so with the Sleeper, probably a lot more, especially these days.
Yeah, and
used
lyric.
To, I would send Micah like we called them habit files, and they were just MIDI nonsense. But they're the right notes. So I've got somewhere like, The Finisher and Son of the Morning on MIDI. It just sounds like a video game, but we wrote the whole record that way.
It straight up sounds like Sega Genesis. Yeah. Like it's so awesome.
You've got to release an 8-bit version of Son of the Morning.
Actually, we already did.
I think
there you go.
For the video game.
Yeah, it's on a
Stand Your Ground
thingy that went with some pre-order thing. Yeah, must have been for Stand Your Ground.
Sure, that was
we
very
need to dig that
convenient
up
for the
again.
dev team.
We need to dig that up again and get it on Spotify.
I'm afraid to touch my computer and it'll make that sound again. Or I would look it up right now.
If the sound happens again, you're off the call.
That's fine. If you drop that again, you're off the call. Just kidding.
Well,
yeah. But thank you very much for the question.
Yeah. So, songwriting, as in like music and all that stuff, and getting all the bones together. There it is. Yeah. I cheers you, my man.
Mm-hmm. This mug. So. But
even lyrically, we kind of wouldn't you say? We kind of share different sides of the coin where while you're taking on that load, I'll take on like the lyric load, and then get that to like a block that is like around like 90% or something, and then bring it to you, and then we kind of hash stuff out together. Or things will start with like lyrical concepts or something that be like, okay, we need this world. It's got to be like this, blah blah blah, and then you'll dive into the dungeon and just start coming up with these soundscapes and everything, and then sometimes they piece together like that. Sometimes one of us will have a whole block. Sometimes you'll just have a folder full of songs, and I'll just take my ideas and see which ones sound like those events that are happening in the lyrics.
Yeah, we've done the whole spectrum of writing. I mean, we've sat down with an idea like with the Summit, and then just waited till the last day to write it in the studio, and and
then just kicked verse by verse, kicked it back and forth.
Yep. And then we've done stuff like, on the first record, Micah, he would show me lyrics, and I'd come up with hits around certain syllables and stuff like that. And then he's written whole blocks, and I've written music around it, and then vice versa. So we've done there's no right way to write a song. You just got to do it. You got to put in the time.
And when you've been writing together, writing buddies for 15 years, you kind of go through every iteration it could possibly be.
Yeah, there's no template except just being at the desk.
Yeah.
Shane, are you personally happier writing lyrics or writing music?
Oh, music, dude. I keep my writing to 7 letters of the alphabet, not 26. Much easier, or at least for me. Um, yeah, lyrics are hard for me, man. And a lot of time I get embarrassed over them, and I've talked to Mike about this, but with Wovenwar, it was obvious I was going through like a specific time of my life with those lyrics, and then with those sleeper lyrics, if I write them, it's usually a conversation between me and Micah about stuff we're arguing about. So yeah, writing music it comes natural. It's always an uphill battle for lyrics for sure.
I think it's awesome how one thing I love about Shane's writing is that he goes directly vulnerable and directly to the heart. And if you read any of his writings, it's instantly you can latch on instantly and instantly relatable.
Yeah, usually the meaning is right there, and it's super raw.
Yeah, and I think that in itself is a huge strength in writing.
I wish I could be metaphorical and come up with all these grand concepts, but I can't. Sometimes I can, but
I like to hide in those shadows of metaphor. Like, I want to open up, but you got to solve a puzzle first.
Right.
All right, Ben, you got a question for him?
Yeah. So this question begins with the position that you wrote Means to Believe for yourself as a song, right? And then Oh Sleeper, sort of the group liked it, and you guys liked it enough to put it in the Oh Sleeper album. Was that?
Who's this question from?
This is the same, I think.
Yeah.
That's from Marion as well. Well, man, that is a long time ago, but if I remember right, I think I did have a demo first, and it was pretty similar to the end result. Micah, you'll have to help me out here, but if I remember right, I had that as a demo, and maybe James or Micah heard it, sort of me screwing around. I remember we wanted a couple of acoustic tracks on that record, and we had The Family Ruin, and that was initially not going to be what it was. It was going to be supposed to be like broken down, but ended up being a massive heavy tune. But yeah, I wrote that as basically like, at the time, I think everybody in the band was a Christian, and I just didn't get it. I was like, it didn't make sense to me, and it's basically my way of saying like, if you're real, why'd you make me this way where I can't figure it out? And why'd you make me such a skeptic? And I went to Micah with that. And I remember we worked on the lyrics for the chorus a bit together, but I think the verses were pretty much straight from the demo.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting song in our catalog because it's the only one really from that perspective of just total skepticism of Christianity. And so, and I'm still there. It still doesn't make sense to me really. But yeah, I love that song. It really does like stamp a time and a conversation in our lives. So
that's how I remember it too. If I like you had it and you wanted to show it to me and you sent it and you were like, it's not finished yet, but I've got this, and it was a block. I think it was like you had like verse chorus or something like that in a bridge.
mm-hmm.
And we talked about, because we had done Reveries of Flight on the album before, and we had talked about wanting to do like we loved Reveries of Flight so much, and we had gotten to talk about it so much, and it ended up being both of our favorite song off that album. And so whenever we were approaching Children, we were like we should do another one like that, where we just get raw and like kind of just work the two perspectives. And you were like, well, I've got one that I've been writing, and I mean, it's definitely raw. And I was like, send it to me. And I fell in love with it, and basically just went because it's fitting a random song into a concept album too. But I went through and I was like, all right, well, if we tweak this word to this, if we change this to this, and we kind of put this in as a line in the chorus, and we could do this, and then it would totally fit. And you liked all the ideas, so we just ran with it.
Yeah, and that was an interesting recording. It was interesting too because you guys left, and it was just me and Chris. And Chris is the engineer that did the Children of Fire record. I think he only did a couple of songs, but you guys left, and because I think I needed that maybe, but and then me and Chris just spent maybe 6 hours in the studio, and we came back and the thing was finished, and you guys heard it for the first time.
So wild.
Yeah, and man, gosh, thinking about that record, like recording it is crazy to me.
I remember I came in. I was there when you were I came in when you were finishing up vocals, and like because I remember being in the studio when you did the last part, and it was just you and the acoustic with one mic, and you're like, you went into your falsetto, and I was like, I got chills, and I'm in the booth like, yeah,
screaming,
yeah.
Yeah, that's a little fun fact. That song tails off, and then I wanted it to be just super vulnerable. So it's literally just a capture of me in the room with one mic, as if it was right here with my acoustic, and just singing along. And then we got the last take is just one mic.
Yeah,
capture, which I thought was really
wow.
cool.
And that was a sonic. We something that Ben and I've been talking about. And we're going to talk about it a lot more today. But sonically following concept, you know, like you wanted it. We wanted to end on a vulnerable note, so stripped away everything and made it a raw one mic capture at the end. So even the recording process follows the concept.
Mm-hmm.
Even if like 5 people know that it's just one mic capture, it still feels right.
Exactly. Yeah.
And now Ben knows.
Yeah.
And now Ben knows.
Now everybody knows. Yeah. Everybody watches this show.
Of course.
So okay, I got one more. Let's do 2 more. One more.
Oh wait, that actually wasn't even the question.
Oh.
That was the lead into the question.
Oh,
what else we got?
You wrote that for yourself and then brought it to the band, right? And then the question is, how often do you write music for yourself versus for bands?
Wow, good question. I think I start everything sort of for myself, especially with when Wovenwar was active. I was writing for 2 bands, or Oh Sleeper wasn't as active back then, but I was always just putting out ideas, thinking they could work for anything. And these days, I've been writing like Billie Eilish type stuff, and I've thought, oh, this could be cool for a No Sleeper, like, whatever. So the answer would just be I'm always sort of just writing, and if that's for me, sure. But I just I just like being at this desk with my guitar and and coming up with stuff, because then I get to show it to Micah and he gets really stoked, and then I get the best.
And then we just hang.
The question sort of just goes into a general ask of, I guess, like, for a plug of like, is there a way to find stuff that you're making on your own? And
not right now. I don't have like a SoundCloud or anything like that I put demos on. I don't want people to steal my stuff.
Yeah.
I got a sick riff. I can't, referee guys will hear it and steal it or something. I'm kidding.
But you do have everything that you've released up, and you can find that. Is a Nullabye on Spotify?
No, but it's on Bandcamp. I mean, that stuff is so old.
It's good. It's so good though.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's just on Bandcamp.
Yeah.
Nullabye.bandcamp, or I think that's what it is. And we can show people how to spell it. Do you have one of the? Can y'all do like the fancy ticker thing?
We could. We have video editing software, but I'd rather just say ANULLABY.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
So
Sell it.
mass majority of the people who are gonna see this are gonna listen to it on Spotify and not see the video. But good plug for the YouTube station. If you didn't know this, we do have a YouTube station, and it is great.
Yeah.
It's fire. That's
Yeah, you can see this awesome bar that we're hanging out
It's
in.
pretty much all other YouTube channels are closing down because we've just been taking over all the traffic on the internet.
Yeah, it's been pretty incredible these past 3 weeks since we started this thing.
Yeah.
And man, I'm telling you, like big time YouTubers just bowing down. Crazy.
We're going straight for the source. We're taking down Google actually.
Yeah, we've got 87 followers, and the world's gonna burn. Okay, I got another one. So, Shane, do you do any other kind of writing other than songwriting, like short stories, book reviews on Goodreads, etc.? If so, what is similar or different about other kinds of writing from songwriting?
Wow. Well, I have dabbled in trying to build a world for a novel I wanted to write, and then I had a kid, and I haven't had any time to do anything at all. But that was a lot of fun, and nothing like writing music. It was just literally just mind dump onto your computer, onto paper, and that was so much fun. Like, and Mike has seen a few things of it. But it's
just so good already. It's so good already.
Yeah,
high fantasy.
Yeah, high fantasy. Sword and board, grimdark, all the things that I like. The only things I like. And it's a revenge story, which I understand very much. I love revenge. It's like the most pointless thing you can do. Or it's the most pointless feeling you can.
Pointless and valuable. Like when it's there, it's all that's there.
Yeah, it's a.
But it really means nothing.
It means nothing, and it doesn't do anything for you or anyone else.
But you'll give it all up to have it.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's good.
And that's what that story is going to be about if I can ever find the time to do it. But yeah, it's about two sisters that take two paths of revenge against one person, and they both go about it in two different ways. One goes the Machiavellian way of like Count of Monte Cristo-ish type thing, and the other one just goes blood.
Yeah.
So, and then they have to meet back up at some point and come to odds with each other on how they're going to deal with getting the revenge they want in their own way, and who will prevail. Who knows?
Can't wait to read that.
Anyway, yeah, writing that stuff, which I have, no real experience in. I just was dumping on a paper, and I've read so many fucking books that I feel like I've got a good grasp on what I would want to do, but nothing like writing music. Writing music is such a God, how do I describe it? It can be emotional. It can mean nothing, and it can mean just like. If I can make a song that only just makes you do this, like
the
that also
stink face.
Yeah, that just also I won. So I don't know, music's so different.
lyrical writing is so constrictive. It can lead to a different type of inspiration where you may go different routes, like chasing rhyme or stuff like that. But I totally feel what you're saying on like hopping to just an open story, like a blank canvas where you're not constricted by anything, and it doesn't have to be heavy. It doesn't have to be like it doesn't have to get the pit going. It doesn't have to like make people cry. You can just build story and build world and like have fun and kind of live there while you're writing it. It's refreshing, but it's also something where like once you click out of it, it's hard to click back into it. Like you really got to make time to sit down and get back into your story and get inspired again.
Yeah, hours go by when I was doing that because I would only be I wasn't. I wrote that one intro that you read, Micah, for that novel, but the rest of it, all I did was just world build and plot outline.
Yeah.
So, and then just jumping in at one part and then just describing the scene. I would just write like paragraph on paragraph of what I wanted the scene to be, and then like come back and I'd put location in, and then come back and like work on some dialogue, you know. And that was just so much fun. You're playing God. It's great.
Yeah. So cool.
And then I heard on Yale's other podcast, Ben, when he writes, he like, or he was talking about how he can just start and then just see where it goes. Fuck that. That doesn't. What are you talking about? I have to have
The
everything.
flow state.
Yeah, I've got to have everything planned, and this is also songwriting how I do it. But everything has to be planned. Every kick drum has to be exactly where it's supposed to be, or I'm gonna lose my shit. Sorry for cussing. I don't know if we're allowed to do that on here.
Oh, you're
You
totally
are.
allowed. Everything's okay on here.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is an adult podcast.
I don't want you guys to lose your sponsors. So.
We already have the E on everything saying explicit, so you can't say we didn't warn you.
You
Wow.
can say whatever the hell you want.
Oh, I don't give a damn what anyone thinks about it.
Anyway, that's how I feel about different writings. They're,
Awesome.
very different.
Yeah, I mean, so you were just talking about intuitive writing versus sort of like outlining, and I recently heard a comparison of gardening versus architecture for art, and like architecture is planning out the exact specific dimensions of everything, and gardening is just planning things and see where they grow
Yeah.
and like maybe guiding them. But like
really cool.
George R.R. Martin would talk about it like basically if you ever read the first draft of Game of Thrones, it's like a 2-page book. It just goes over just a very general detail of like what you would imagine to happen if you only read the first chapter of the book. And it's just a pretty predictable story about like the evil characters are evil, and like here are the things that happen, and like these are like the heroes, these are like the prophesied people. And then like when he started writing it, he was like, once the characters were there living on the page, they just started doing their own things, and like he couldn't control like this character just would say this here, so I can't fit in what I thought my outline was. And the story just took on a life of its own, and by the middle of the book, you can already tell it's completely off the rails of what he had planned for the whole series.
Yeah, yeah, which is really cool. The tale grew with the telling, as
Yeah.
everyone has said. I guess Tolkien said that.
Yeah, it's I think, and I think that they're both styles. I think gardening and architecture are super important, and I think that they're both like parts of each other. Like they're not like mutually, like obviously with gardening you do have an element of like planning out the way things are, and with architecture there's probably a small element of improvisation that goes into it. And so it's just like managing to balance those things with either direction. I think
I imagine if I ever did it, it'd probably be a world of both. Because, like you said, once George R. R. Martin just started indulging on specific scenes, they just went elsewhere, and he had probably had to re-outline 1,000 times.
Yeah,
I'm sure Sanderson does the same thing.
Yeah,
who
that
knows
is
his process, dude? Maybe there's 40 guys in a basement working on typewriters.
Well, Sanderson said, I mean, he maps everything out, right? Doesn't he do like huge, extensive outlines and works on them for years? I thought I heard something that he outlined for like 10 years before he started it or something.
Before Stormlight, the first book, I think you're right. Yeah, he had he does these writing seminars at colleges and stuff, and I think I saw a video of him talking about that at some point.
Golly.
Yeah, it was
He had Dalinar's arc done before he started writing, apparently.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
it was the Stormlight is the main story that he wanted to tell, and he said when he started writing Mistborn, it was practice.
Whoa.
So like, yeah. So going back at least that far, it was just he was thinking about writing Stormlight and just trying to write something that could be that good and involved and complex. And when he started writing, it was when he thought he was finally ready, I guess.
Have you read Mistborn yet, Mike?
I haven't yet.
It's like Stormlight. It's like
Light.
beta Stormlight.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll get into it eventually.
It's a great read. I mean, it's worth it. But
Yeah, what's super cool is like there is this huge interconnected story of the cosmos that goes beyond any individual story, but that's not the one that he was waiting his whole life to tell. Stormlight is the one that he was like really excited about. The overarching one is like not as cool.
I don't know how like how I have to I can only work on what I'm most excited about. Everything else takes a back seat. And I've tried, like, it's so hard when I'm excited about writing about one thing to force myself to write creatively about anything else. If he already had in mind and was building the if he really did work on the outline for Stormlight for 10 years and it exists in the same universe, at least, Cosmere as Mistborn, and he's developing different magic systems that he's not going to use in one book series. Like I don't know how he divides his inspiration and excitement and drive to like sit down and put the chair time in to write an entire book while being more excited about one that he's outlining.
a trilogy.
God, that's so difficult. Like,
Yeah.
it's
And
hard.
then
Like I'll get on like a tangent, like where like for days I'll be working on my children's book on Randy, and then I'll think like man, I really need to work on some old sleeper stuff, but I'm not like feeling those sleeper stuff right then. But I'm like I really need to do this. I'll sit there and it is so hard to like grind myself into that gear. I always end up just like hopping over and finishing whatever I was doing on the other project, and then the door closes, and then I can like laser focus somewhere else.
Yeah, I think part of being a musician though is that every next song is your opus. You know, like you have to treat it as if it would be. Story writing. I mean,
well, even with songwriting though, like I have to write the song I'm most excited about right then. And then there's always like songs that end up like 2 songs by the time we're going into the studio. Like 2 songs that I haven't written at all because either I had no idea for them or it's just like an idea that I was like, it's not as spicy as these other ones, and I won't. But once I clear those other ideas out of the way, then I've got the focus to like barrel through and churn up some creativity.
Yeah, I feel like creative energy is so like finicky, and it's if you actually have like the inspiration to be working on something out of like a sense of joy and like passion, then that's like you'd have to do that thing right now. I feel like.
Golly, like it's impressive.
So impressive.
You got one more question for Shane?
Yes. I have one that can I ask him questions, or are we
you can
doing
absolutely
only user submitted questions?
No.
Okay.
Well, thank you for the user submitted questions, by the way, everybody. That was awesome. And please chime in next time we have a guest to ask questions.
Yeah, there's one or two more we could get into if we have time, but I did want to ask Shane first.
He's pulling rank and just putting his own question in. Nice.
I like it.
What is your favorite chord?
Major 7.
Play it.
Any minor 7 too is great.
Oh.
You know here?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And here's just a great chord.
Do you like it more when it's at a specific place in the scale, like if it's the 4th, like the major 7th as the 4th chord?
You mean as the 4?
Like as a resolve or something, or
as the 4th of the
scale. I mean, to be honest, dude, I like country progressions where it ends on the 5. I just like that. There's nothing better than GDC. There's that 5.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. So you just have GDC or GCD?
Right.
You can't get better than that. And there's 7 trillion songs that prove it.
And there's going to be 7 trillion more as history goes on.
Not
And if you
chords
put
I
the
hear a
7
lot
there-
in your writing.
No, but if you put a 7 into the 5 chord, it just makes you want to go back to that G so bad.
There's home base.
Yep. But with my daughter's trying to get in here. Sleepers ish tunes. I like. Well, let's see. If we're in D minor, what is the C? So it's a 7. Like with. So yeah, it's in D minor. So yeah, that's just a 6 5 7 or 6 or a 5 6 7. That's weird. I never thought about that. Or a 6 7 1. That's what it is. I can't play guitar.
In a
guys.
minor scale.
Yeah. I'm treating the 6 as the 1 on that.
Right.
Does this make any sense to you, Micah? We're just saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I hopped in with and asked one question. I was way off, and I was like, nope, not my
Should we
expertise.
explain music theory to all of our listeners and to Micah?
Oh man.
What was the question?
Favorite
It
chord.
was just your favorite chord, yeah.
Yeah, any 7 chord. I just like any 7.
There you go.
Because in jazz, you can just literally modulate between 7 chords everywhere, and you can make a song out of it.
What is a 7 chord? What does that mean?
It means you're putting the 7th note of the scale into whatever chord you're playing. I guess that's the layman way to describe it. Like,
yeah, so typically a chord has 3 notes, like a triad would have 3 notes, like that's like a chord. And then like the most common chord of 4 notes is called a 7th chord, where you're adding a 4th harmony in.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be a 4th. It can a 4th harmony. You can have 3. Like,
right.
Here's a G. Here's the G major scale. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, back to G, so that ends it. But if you put this F sharp over just a G major,
ooh, yeah, that's nice. Yeah, I like that.
Here's a C7.
It's kind of like adding fish sauce to a dish. You know,
There
like
you go.
you use it just to add depth, not to taste the fish sauce. You know, but if you don't have it there, you're gonna notice. Fish sauce.
There's your theory lesson for today, Mike.
7 is like the fish sauce. I get it. Okay, I'll never forget that.
Mm-hmm. You also learned that G major has an F sharp in it just then, so that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Circle of fifths, man.
Stick that one in my back pocket.
7 chord, favorite chord, boom.
Nice.
Well,
In segment.
in segment. So that does wrap up that segment of Let's Ask Shane. So next, we would like to do a lyrical deep dive. We've done one on the past 2 episodes. This isn't going to be an every episode thing, but we would be remiss to not do one with Shane. So we would like to dive into one of your songs and just get deep on it and hear it word for word and see what it means to you.
All right. Which one are we doing?
So which one would you like to do? You pick.
I don't know. You pick, bro.
You guys discussed
Okay, you
this.
texted. We did. So
did. I mean,
the first one you said one. Let's see.
We could do 130. I mean, it's a pretty brutal subject, but yeah.
That's it. Let's do it.
Or we could do Confession, which is also a brutal subject. Actually, let's do Confession because 130. It's about the November 2015 Paris attack. We had played the Bataclan right before that happened, and 130 people died, and that's basically what the song's about. But I'll probably start crying if I.
I would love to do that though.
All right,
that sounds
okay. Let's do it.
okay. Where can I look up the lyrics so I can follow along?
The ones on the internet are probably wrong.
That's
but
okay.
I can tell you what's up.
All right. This is with Wovenwar.
Yeah. So yeah, that had happened, and we had just played it we were on tour with In Flames, and we had just played that venue, and a gorgeous venue in Paris. I mean, it's awesome. It's kind of like a House of Blues equivalent in the States. But yeah, so that happened right after we were there, and we were getting home to write this new record, and I think Nick hit me up and he was like, "Hey man, dude, this record I really want you to do some guitar stuff and like add your flair, whatever." And anybody who's heard the Honor Is Dead record can definitely tell that on a few songs that they could have been No Sleeper songs, And this is one of them. And I wrote the whole thing musically in about an hour, and I just wanted it to sound like just the most chaos on the record, and the riff just to be like uncomfortable, and then for the chorus to just flatten out to get the point across. But yeah.
What's it called again?
130. Like,
yeah, it's the number
130. All right, I got them right here.
The ones on Google seem to be correct right now. So.
Okay, so definitely go on whatever streaming platform you like, and after this, go check out. Or if you want to pause this podcast and listen to it, it's 130 off of Wovenwar's album. Which album was this off of?
The second one, Honor Is Dead.
Off of Honor Is Dead. Let's go.
Okay. Are you going to read them? How does this work?
No, you just read them to us and explain to us what's going on.
In y'all's past ones, I thought like Ben read the lyric to you, and in his sultry.
Do you want me to, dude? I'd be happy to.
Take it away, Ben.
All right.
And also, Ben always has good insights on lyrics. Yeah.
Do you want to do line by line?
Just read until you want to talk about it.
All right.
It's a very blatant song,
Yeah.
just like all my lyrics, but.
Okay. Explosions shake the city. I thought it was part of the show. A craven is screaming prayers in a tongue I don't know. Paris lights are winking out. I can hear the city scream while the faithful are rejoicing in the sound of tragedy.
Yeah. It kind of it spells it out. I wanted it to be, as if you were just at the show, and like what would go through your mind at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly like Micah was pointing out about your writing. It's just right in your face exactly what's happening.
Mm-hmm. You can immediately just port there.
Yeah, it's action. And I think it's
action. Wow.
it's a different writing genre than like say what we were talking about last week, like the song that I brought in for my lyrical deep dive, which was like philosophy, and it's like this would be what I would actually look for from something that I wanted to enjoy as entertainment, or like this would be like it's something that is like it just connects you and immerses you, and it's just like super raw. Like this is it's like a scene, right? Obviously, it is a scene.
And that's how I wanted to set it up for sure.
Yeah.
Just throw you into the chaos, and what would the lyric be?
So I love a craven. A craven is screaming prayers in a tongue I don't know. What's craven?
A coward.
Oh, that's the bomber.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
There was no bomb. It was just dudes with AKs.
Yeah. Okay.
There was a bomb down the street at a restaurant.
Cafe. Yeah. Okay, got you. All right. I'm seeing it.
And then Paris lights are winking out. I mean, obviously just the chaos of what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wanted it to get across the point that, when I heard about this, I was like, what a fucking pointless endeavor. Mm-hmm. Religion is nonsense to me anyway, and these dudes took it upon themselves to punish people for not thinking the same. It's just ridiculous to me. So the chorus is the next little paragraph, if you want to read it, Ben.
Yep. Find me one reason worth this hate, one reason worth this endless violence. Find me one reason worth this hate because I have 130 reasons to change.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Just again, blatant. Just what I just said. Like, I think it's, and it still goes on today. It's just unbelievable. Like the torment humans can put each other through over superstitions.
Mm-hmm. I keep like thinking about the a craven of streaming prayers in a tongue I don't know, and like thinking about like these people are there making a stand, like screaming about why they're doing it to people who can't even understand them. They don't know why they're there. They don't know what they can't understand what they're saying.
Mhm.
They have no way to defend themselves. They're not a part of the thing at all. They're not changing anything other than taking like senselessly taking lives.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, and it's just totally senseless and endless violence, all hate driven.
Yeah.
Mm.
So the second verse, I sort of
Yeah.
wanted to, yeah, go through that, and I'll tell you what I was thinking.
This stage should be a temple where anyone can sing, yet we are one divided, waging war over beliefs. Paris lights are winking out. I can feel the city scream while the faithful are rejoicing in the sound of tragedy.
Yeah, um, the juxtaposition between people screaming, this Craven screaming about whatever whatever he thought, and then everyone literally watching a band scream about just like being together.
Mm.
Um, just
I love this stage should be a temple. I mean, absolutely should be. Like the stage should be a holy place where you can get up there and put your views out there and be received, or like people can come to support you and everything. Like, but anyone can get up there and talk about anything they want.
yeah,
And people can come to support them. A temple where anyone can sing. That's something that doesn't really exist. There isn't a temple that anyone can get up in. Like in any religion, like you have to follow that religion.
yeah. Concerts are amazing. Like,
That's beautiful.
yeah, just yeah. It's almost like a church. Like you have all different walks of life just come together to celebrate this one thing they have in common, and these fuckers were you know
Try to take that
take
beautiful
it from
thing
them.
out of the world.
And then the second chorus is the same, obviously. With
Yeah, 130 reasons to change, and then we have parents' cries are ringing out while their sons and daughters bleed, and the faithful are rejoicing in the sound of tragedy. Again, that line at the end of all the verses, yeah, it's
see-
super.
That one just pulled home the faithful are rejoicing in the sound of tragedy.
Yeah,
Man, this is such a vivid picture. You're absolutely right, man. This is
yeah,
is
it's
beautiful.
super
It's-
intense.
It's beautifully done.
thanks. Yeah. I'm trying to think when what date it actually was. I think it was. I mean, it wasn't too long ago. Like the 5 year or oh my God, the
Was it an Ariana Grande concert?
no, it was the Eagles of Death Metal show.
Oh, that's right.
And then I kept using Paris because I knew I wanted to get to the parents line,
Nice.
and just for it to even hit harder there.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paris.
Yeah.
Paris.
all right.
That's
Wait.
cool.
Yeah, Pete. Hang on. Okay, I
That
need
one
to take
slipped by
another
me.
look.
That's cool. Paris lights. Oh yeah, Paris lights are ringing out. Paris cries are ringing out. Parents cries are ringing out.
Yeah.
Oh, well done, sir.
I really just wanted that song to get more attention than it got, because just to raise awareness of this stupid thing, like, yeah.
Well, I'm even more glad that we chose it for this one. So anyone listening will get to know the full breadth of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I freaking teared up. It's hard one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also the it's such the imagery of like the stage should be a temple.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think that this is so like reading your heart, you know, like there's in your like in your journey with everything, it's like there's all these things that don't add up, but there is something that does make sense and it does add up. And it's when you're on stage and it's when you're like, and the people that you look out and you're like, you came here, you're with me, y'all are my people. Like this is sacred ground. This is holy ground for us. And you've been a part of the merch table conversations where you see that like being here does good for people, whether you're venting frustration or whatever it is. Just being raw brings people to relate to you, and they absolutely just sullied that or soiled it.
Yeah, and you know, we've been playing shows since we were kids, and it's just it is this sacred thing, and I don't know. Mm-hmm. Aside from the religious part of it, yeah, just an attack on like the one thing that I have.
Yes. You know? Well, there's so many other places like sporting games and stuff like that. Massive amounts of people gather and everything, and music is kind of the refuge where people want to like get away from the news. You want to get away from all this stuff like that. You want to have a place to vent and outlet and find yourself again and feel yourself again. And so like that's like the precious sanctuary, the precious escape for musicians and people and audiophiles alike, and people who just who need it. You know, it's like medicine. It is like church when people go to shows like of their favorite band. You know, you leave inspired. It's this special thing you can't get anywhere else. And it's like you attack there, like really, like come in screaming and where no one can understand what you're saying. Like this is where it happens. This is where you take out your hatred, like
and
the juxtaposition. Yeah, and just like
you're rewarded for it.
Yeah,
if that's what you believe, it's
wild.
Yeah. Anyway,
all right. That's been 130 by Shane Blay and Wovenwar. And
yeah, thanks for bringing that in.
Man. That was awesome.
No problem, guys. The other one was pretty deep too. Confessions about alcohol, which me and Mike have been sober for 5 days.
5 days, baby.
Wow.
I gotta you hit the 5 workouts.
I didn't do a workout yesterday because I needed to rest.
Coward.
I am one of those misproportionate people that skip leg day all the time. And I did my first one because I was like, all right, I'm done with that. I'm going to balance out. And oh my God, I'm moving slow.
Dude, today I can finally like get up.
Yeah.
I have to like get on the treadmill for 20 minutes before my legs work.
Yeah, that whole 30-minute delay was spent with me trying to climb under my desk and moving so slowly, like.
Oh yeah.
Plugging up all my sound stuff. But okay, so that wraps up Lyrical Deep Dive. We want to get into our topic. So now we know Shane. We've heard a bit of his writing. Now it's time for us all to dive in on the topic of today, which is world building.
World building.
Yes.
Love that. I didn't know that was the topic today, but I love that.
Yes.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise. And to actually usher in world building, like, so it can happen. It happens on every scale. Whenever you're, especially with music, which is how people would know you and I the best listening to this. But world building happens not only in the novels that you listen to, in any kind of fiction or anything like that, or nonfiction too, like setting the scene. It's also something that we talk a lot about while writing our music, and the world, especially with screaming music. You don't you got to go in and read the lyrics to catch what I'm talking about. So a lot of the initial pull in, a lot of the pull in to like bring people into the world and what we're talking about weighs on you building a sonic world, like sonically building a world that sounds like whatever the emotion, whatever the feeling is, and it basically creates the soil for the lyrics and for the concept. But that's what hits everyone first. And so I thought that before we got into writing, like world building and noveling and short stories and stuff like that, and movies and video games, I thought we could kind of dive into some instrumental world building. And I thought maybe you and Ben could bounce off each other in that.
World building with audio is, someone says one word, like we've done songs before, and you'd say one word, like
tragic,
underwater. No, you give a location or discombobulated, whatever, and you start thinking about what that would actually sound like in stereo. And I've done my best to to ride those words and make up what I can. We always go back to Amputation on our first record, and Micah, he goes, okay, so like this bomb goes off, and then this dude, he's just like underwater. And I was like, okay.
We were simulating D-Day. Like you're on the boat and you're going in, and like we wanted the boat door like the gate crashes down, and and like you run out into the waves, and immediately boom, you get hit and you sink below. Mm-hmm. And like it's like, and we were talking about how it's like, when you go underwater, like imagine there's machine guns and all this stuff going off, and there's just like the chaos of war, but then I want it to be like brought underwater where all that and you're about to die, but then someone reaches in and grabs you and pulls you back, so there needs to be like a and then you're back in the fray, and you're like, I remember we were sitting in Shane's bedroom at his parents' house. This was probably 15 years ago. And we're just sitting on the floor, and Shane has all of his pedals in front of him, and we're just like sitting Indian style, and he just starts like going through stuff and creating underwater. He's like, all right, well, so where are we gonna get to? And
I think it really paid off. So
yeah, and that practice really ended up being something that we brought back throughout almost every single song, like some sort of cinematic direction on the music.
Yeah, a newer example would be we wrote the Summit, which is a very we wanted it to feel isolating, and if you think about isolating, I was like, all right, well, I made you and Andreas leave, and Chris for some reason stayed. Chris Haig, anyway.
Love you, Chris.
Yeah, love you, dude. But he was like, dude, can I just watch you like do this? And I was like, I guess. I'm trying to be alone right now. This is the whole point of this exercise.
And Shane had the concept of it was alone on a mountaintop, bleeding out, and like dying alone, and like the main word that was to inspire like all chords chosen was, this song has to be devastating. And that was before we even decided it was going to be an acoustic song. Or I think in the initial conversation, it was like, what's the last song going to be? I was like, okay, it's got to be devastating. Like, we're on this mountaintop, bleeding out, dying, and it's just isolated, and it's just got to be devastating. And you were like, acoustic. And I was like, what? And you're like, trust me.
Yeah, well, we had this progression, and this didn't make it to the song, but we had this. I thought that was devastating. I thought that was so alone, and I ended up writing a whole bit for it, and it just wasn't alone enough. And I think Andreas goes, it sounds a little churchy. So I was like, fuck.
The worst thing he could say to you.
Fuck. So I ended up going a different route, but I wanted so thinking about Alone, he's not gonna have a guitar pick, so I didn't want to have strumming in it. And then I wanted it to be centered, the guitar to be centered and the vocal to be centered, at least for one verse, until it opened up. But literally, I sat down and I was like, I just played this 7 chord, and I think the first thing I did was. And Chris was like, oh, what? I was like, dude, you're not helping the vibe.
Chris is just Andreas's friend.
Yeah, he's just his friend.
Well, he's all of our friends, but he doesn't play any musical role in any of the recording. He was just hanging out.
Yeah, and Andreas is our producer, by the way. But yeah, so I wanted this to be, centered. How do you make something just sound alone, but also on the top of a mountain? Reverb. But I wanted it to be centered in one vocal. So when we tracked it, on the first verse, it's literally just this guitar. And then one vocal take, I think. And I think I did the whole vocal, in one take too. Because we had sang it a lot. Me and Micah were, when we were writing it, we had got the melody down. But then if you notice, as it opens up, on the second verse, right after I sing the chorus line, there's a little guitar solo thing, but as that happens, the two stereo imaging starts to happen, where I tracked another one of these and it just opens up and they slowly spread out over the next verse, widening the spectrum. And other instruments came in too, and then we introduced a harmony on the second chorus and stuff like that. But another interesting thing about that song is I wanted it to just be me and Micah's vocals, and I think that was your first time ever doing a harmony.
Yeah, that was my first time to ever actually sing on an O Sleeper album.
Yeah, so we
It was in the concept. It's our two characters dying out.
Yep, and it also mirrors us because we are the only original members left of this thing, and I thought it'd be so cool because I always track my own harmonies, and I did on this too, but because there's like 7 harmonies going on. But Mike ended up singing the low one, so it was really cool just to. That's another thing that you probably never hear it, and you would never know. But for us, the concept, is there.
it had to be there for the concept, so it would. That's something that I love about writing with you is that we started just trying to write songs that meant the most to us, and we just have kept that going. Like it's gotta hit us, and that's whether something may be cooler or more trendy to go down. It's like, yeah, but that's not the vibe. Like, no, this needs to be, I don't have the best voice, but it's like, no, you gotta sing on this one. And so it's like, okay, let's do it. It's the only way it'll work.
But anyway, so yeah, like that's a little note into my mind about how I like to at least approach making something thematic or even cinematic. It could be at least in your own mind. Because every time I hear that song, I'm on a mountain. Like if I'm singing it, I'm dying on a mountain.
Yeah.
I really feel that way. Like,
you can feel the wind.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've only got to do that song live once, but I've sang it in my room, countless times. But I don't know about you, Ben.
When I was doing the Building the Right Guys theme, I was doing a lot of like sonic world building in my head around that. Like it opens with pencil scratching, which is like writing, and that sort of writes in the instruments. The instruments bleed in through the sound of the pencil scratch, so like the volume ducks in, and you hear the pencil scratch fade out, but the first instrument keeps playing. Then you hear a stapler click, like it's stamped it in place. That instrument keeps going, and now it starts drawing in the guitar or writing in the guitar, and so then the guitar gets written in, and then it stamps, and then the piano melody gets written in, and then the page rips, and that's the first drop, is like the page rips out, and then a typewriter starts going after the drop. So it's like you've concepted on paper, and now you're moving into the typewriting phase.
Of
And
course,
so
it's this cool. Of course. Of course, Ben has a just great. Just love you, dude.
So then the chorus sort of continues with the typewriter, and then the typewriter's ding will be like a lot of the fills in that, and then there's also chalkboard and whiteboard in this phase, and then that whole chorus just and the part before is just representing obviously writing, you know, being in a flow state, getting yourself to a point where you're going through outlining, and then you're getting into the meat of actually doing the writing. And then the bridge comes in, which is writer's block, which is like the first time
it dropped out, right? Like
so the percussion, all the percussion stops. So like anything that before was the pencil drawing, the typing, all stops, and you hear pen clicking as the percussion. So it's like the writing has stopped, and now you're just thinking. And I can grab my guitar. I don't know if it's gonna be like reasonable to plug it in, but I can play into the room.
Takes a man to play a pink guitar, dude.
That's right.
What I did with the
Looks
bridge,
good with it too.
Was like each riff of the electric guitar is specifically saying something. Sorry, I was like, each riff of the electric guitar is specifically like saying something in the style of Name of the Wind. Like I mentioned this last podcast quote kind of, and it's a lot like you said before, of taking a word like devastating and trying to capture that with a chord progression. But the idea of getting more and more specific with that to the point of like, can you capture the moment of a flame licking up on like a leaf? And can you make that a riff or a note or a lick? And so I tried to basically write a part in the bridge, like write just some concepts like back to back. So it starts with the only like minor part in the song, which is representing like the writer's block beginning.
Yeah.
And so that's like the problem is here. And then this next part is supposed to be like, it breaks it down into a more like melodic, it's a little more major, but this is like throwing your arms up like, oh, well, what the fuck am I gonna do? And then this part is where it starts working on the problem. So like there's these two licks back to back. So those back to back are like the key changes between those two licks, but it's the same lick, just a half step down. Like it.
Tapping's not gonna come out very well.
No ghetto with the. I'm like trying to hold it all weird, but like this you can always listen to it in the actual song, but. And then there's this diminished like. And so those two licks back to back with the crunching diminished chord in between is like when you start getting an idea that you're working with, and it's actually like plying the tools of the rubber hitting the road of like trying something and then being like, no, that didn't work, kind of crumple up the paper. That's like the diminished chord. Then you change it up. And you've changed it, you've alchemized it into something that works. And then that's when the chords start kind of flowing more, and the chorus or the synth comes in over the guitar at this point, and it picks up. That's sort of just things falling into place. That's like the sweep up begins. That's like you're now getting to work on the problem, and then that part is in the progression. We've gone through the progression twice already. Then the progression has started on a D minor each time, and on that it starts. That's a D major 7. And so we've turned the problem around. We're now fully in the point of inspiration. So the D major 7 represents it turning around into like, yeah. So this. And then these sweeps are like everything's fallen into place. That's like it all comes together on the sweeps. And then that's where it goes back to the original chords, representing that we've returned to flow state. And that's where in the song you get this really loud, like resonating sound of like. so that part is like daylight breaking through. We fully come back into the flex zone, and
That's
then
cool.
we go back into like there's another breakdown with the page ripping, and it goes fully back into like the typewriter chorus part after the bridge, which is like we've broken through writer's block. But yeah,
That's so cool.
Great.
Everything has meaning. Everything has a why.
yeah, even things that shouldn't.
It's so cool though, because like that you chased a why of each chord, and it made the song more than like having an idea of what the song should sound like, and then just finding the chords that fit that. I think that's a really cool way to start music. And honestly, like after working that way with Shane so much, Shane's a straight up master at this. Like I can throw any word at him, and then he's like, blah, 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 oh. I'm like, that's it. That's exactly like you played that, and the picture came to mind. Like, for example, okay, I'm gonna throw you on the spot here, Shane. Okay, so if I'm like, this is how something would pan out. Like, okay, so we're in a song, and wherever it's at, it's like, okay, at this point though, I know like we're on the first verse is like super sad, but the second verse after the chorus, it is victorious. Like we've overcome. And like, can you play something right now that what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Like something that sounds victorious.
Oh,
Just
man.
any riff that sounds victorious. Top Gun already is happening in my head. Like, no.
No. I don't know. There's something, in that Top Gun-y way.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. It's
Yeah.
something very ethereal, sort of.
It's kind of like an ascension vibe.
Yeah. Just something like that. If the song started in D minor and it could ascend to D major, it'd be cool.
Yeah.
That's my first go.
Beautiful though. Like, and already like being able to background that, like so many times. Yes.
Something sick.
So many times though, like I'll have an idea that I'm running with, like working around like what's happening to these characters in our songs, and I'll say something like that, like, okay, we got to go victorious on this. It needs to have this victorious edge, and then he'll bring something like that out, and it's like maybe I was thinking about like a victorious charge type thing, and then but he translates it into victorious in another way, like this ethereal ascension.
The inner peace that you feel when you have achieved victory.
Yes, and that. But then it's like it fits better than my original idea was, and then it inspires the characters to go a different route, and like the song unpacks that way. So that's the way we're like lyrics and musical songwriting. If you let them play together and you work at that, and you really work at fleshing out the why of everything, magic stuff happens. Like I don't know. We could never write a song that was just like across the board one tone, and then just have like lyrics that were like, about love, and then like that, and I don't know, it just has to follow, or it doesn't work. In our case, like, that's what gets us jazzed.
I tried to play along to that, so it just sounded even more emotional. You know what I mean? But anyway.
That's very true.
Well, I want to give props to one of our listeners who commented on Right Guy's Instagram post. This was In Long Drummer is the tag, and he says, are y'all going to be covering instrumental writing too? Would love an analysis like that on classic O Sleeper tracks. So thank you for that comment. We read all the comments and want to get all the questions that you guys have out in front and talked about. So thank you for that. And that inspired this whole little section. So that's very cool.
Yes, thank you very much. We love our comments and suggestions. As we did mention last time, and I posted about, the website is up and running. So if you do have comments, suggestions, questions, or anything like that, feedback, send it on over. There's links on the website. You can go to writeguys.org/askus or find the Ask Us link on the homepage.
That website is so cool. I got to give major props to Ben and his wife Julia for doing the whole thing.
Yeah, mostly Julia. Yeah.
Thank you, Julia. It's like, dive into it, because go check out. One of my favorite sections is the writing challenges section. We're putting together PDFs of all of the writing challenges that we read, some other ones as well as our personal ones that we did. And so you can go on there and read through all the submissions that were talked about from previous writing challenges. We're putting up links to everything that we talk about. So really trying to make that a fun resource that keeps the creative juices flowing.
Yeah. By the time this episode is out, all the writing submissions all the writing challenge submissions that we've highlighted in the PDFs should be available on the website right now at the time of recording. And I think at the time of the time of the recording, it's not only one of them is up, but so I did want to talk about that as well, because the whole website was, I wanted to, because you gave Julia a shout out, give her an extra shout out for getting it, that she did finish the website by the time episode 2 released. But unfortunately, with the problems that we have with GoDaddy and everything, we didn't get it up until whenever the middle of the week, next week. But we made a post
so
about it.
That was basically a week. In 7 days, she created an entire website and got it up and going.
Yeah, and so after all that, the next the updates have been taking really long to go through, and so hopefully all the writing submissions are up there by the time this episode goes out. But we don't really control when the updates get pushed sometimes. So but they should all be there.
Yeah, so go check it out, writeguys.org. So I want to transitioning from instrumental into just classic world building with old pen and pad. Started off with Shane. What are some of your favorite authors, Shane and Ben? Some of your favorite authors that you think just like master world building, and why? Like, what is it about it that?
Well, there's two sides to that, because I don't think my favorite world builders are my favorite authors.
That's fine. Let's talk world builders.
Yeah, like Robert Jordan built just a ridiculous world because he's so long-winded with the Wheel of Time. Just huge, and just kept going and going and going. Obviously, George R. R. Martin built some of the best world building ever. And great character arcs, but I think that the minimalist approach that Joe Abercrombie did is the best world building there is, because your imagination fills out everything else. With I don't know if Ben has read Sharp Ends yet. Oh man, dude, get on it.
For people who don't know Robert Jordan and people who don't know Joe Abercrombie, like, what would you say, like describe the difference in how they write?
So Robert Jordan is very long-winded. There's paragraphs on paragraphs about the buttons on whoever's shirt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like he goes into such just, the glint on the earring type thing. And Sanderson's a bit that way too, but Joe Abercrombie is very just minimalist about details, and he forces dialogue to sort of fill in everything around.
Yeah. You kind of learn about everything through conversation or like a pinpoint view of just someone's perspective with their intelligence level. You know, like if that character doesn't know about it, then you don't know about it, and they're just reacting to things, and you kind of fill out the world that all these people are walking around in from all these different perspectives, rather than the building, like, you know, the city was laid out like this, and like, you know, paragraphs on paragraphs about a map.
Yeah. And also he doesn't really explain his magic systems at all, which I think is great. You know, Logan, in the first scene of the first book, Logan Ninefingers just sucks up that spirit into his mouth. No one knows how he did it. It never gets explained.
But you just know he can do it, and now, and if he can do it, that exists in this world. So then you're like, okay, so there's other things going on, but I guess I don't need to think about that right now. But it's still there.
But yeah, I mean, world building, I enjoy both sides. Like, you know, we've only really talked about fantasy so far, but they're just the coolest worlds. So
well, tell me, like in your novel, like you are focusing on world building right now. So like what while you're actively world building and outlining, what's going into that? What in your mind do you need to flesh out in the world you're writing in to know? Like, is it like physics, like magic, time period, like place, technology? I
think politics is what I'm trying to get at right now. I didn't want any dynasties except for that's a foreign thing in my in the cultures I'm trying to do. I wanted it to be basically just run by merchants. These guilds, seven, came to an accord that they would just rule their, you know, respective lands that way, and just trying to figure out how that would work and how that would play, and then just trying to flesh out a couple of cultures to the west. It sucks because every time you do it, someone's already done it. Like with Robert Jordan, the Aiel, you have like Indian culture and like Native American cultures already in there, and he's borrowed, like, everything's sort of been done with humans that you could, like, any governance type thing has already just been there. So it's hard to to figure that out. And going back to Joe Abercrombie, he doesn't go into that much.
Right.
And it's just about the character and the scene you're in right now. Obviously those have repercussions down the road, but the world building is just getting to know these pieces of shit that he's chosen, his freaking menagerie of assholes that are POVs for him.
Yeah, and what they think about what's going on.
Yeah, and they don't have to explain it to the reader. I mean, the reader has, if you're reading that book, you've already read Stormlight, you've already read Wheel of Time and stuff like that. So I don't know.
That's cool though, but it's interesting. Like you said, you're focusing on like the politics and the culture first in your world building, and I think that is really powerful, because that, like, this is something that, like, for if you're listening and you're working on your story, like, these are things that we kind of touched on when we did that, but then on the last episode, where it's like you can kind of hit writer's block and not know where a character should go, but then you realize, like, oh, I haven't even slapped a time period on this yet. And you can start thinking about a time period and like where they're existing. What does the room look like? How'd they get there? What are they going to eat? How'd they get that food? And you start fleshing out those elements that aren't in the story. They're just in your creative web that you're pulling from. And all of a sudden your character starts making moves that they would make if they were in that. And so, I mean, the way that a culture is set up politically very much affects personal motivations, and also starts drawing out some other questions about characters of like, okay, well, if this is a political system of like 7 merchant guilds, then who is my character within that? Is it part of the merchant guilds? Is it this? Like, how am I going to show that? It's like you kind of start when you're world building. You kind of it's like the beginning of the snowball, and once you like put something in place, there's like trickle effects.
Once they're set. Yeah.
There's also definitely a balance to strike between the work that you're doing, world building and creating all of these concepts and religions and dynasties, and then what you're showing to the reader.
Right. So what my plan was to have a background set and then not talk about it.
Yeah.
And throw it in,
It's like Rothfuss or someone said, like, your reader should only see like 10% of what you've made for your world. Anything more than that is masturbation.
God, that's
then
funny
his
that he said that.
his 10%,
Right.
like that 90 must be colossal.
Yeah, and I don't even remember the exact number, but yeah, something like that. But like, yeah,
That's
guy.
kind of the
Having-
pot
having-
calling the kettle black.
having
right
things
there.
that you have in your back pocket that like it I think the reader can almost always tell the difference between like something that is deeply grounded and like all the pivot points that you actually are seeing are all pointing in the same direction, rather than, I think, like a lot of readers can tell when you're flying by the seat of your pants retconning things that happen, or like in like Harry Potter, for example. Probably honestly my favorite book series to read that I've ever read.
It's so
the most
much fun.
enjoyable
An
read that I've
amazing
ever had.
world.
But
Such
but clearly, like, kind of just changing rules as they go in some ways, like small things, but like and not wanting to deal with the consequences of those things, kind of. And so it's like things
what are you
just
talking?
like, for example, the time turners existing somehow,
Yeah.
and then that's just like a loophole of like, can people just go back in time in this world? So then they just destroy them all, like in the 5th book, and it's like they're gone now.
Yeah, I mean the plot hole had to be eradicated, or
Right. So it's just like, it works as a story because the whole time you're just following it, loving each chapter. But like, if you zoom out, you can see those little things. It's like, it would have been nice if it were cool if this was like thought out beforehand.
Or the Eagles just picked up Frodo and Sam. Just brought them there.
Yeah. Where the hell they been?
We could discuss that. There are other loopholes with that. I feel like that's not an airtight theory. How would they have gotten, like, if there wasn't a war going on at the Black Gate, how would the Eagles have gotten over and into Mordor?
The back. I'm just kidding. I don't know.
It's through the clouds, bro. Like they're eagles.
Yeah, do a falcon dive, peregrine falcon dive.
Because all of the Nazgul were like,
That's true.
brought out of out of the Minas Morgul.
Well, I think that I think another interesting thing with world building is that you can. I like building a world, and then like basically making a power system, by characters that you and basically like convincing the reader that this is the world, and then breaking that power system, and then like setting laws, and then
set a
breaking
law,
the
then
laws.
break it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a fun thing that I'd encourage anybody who's writing who hasn't messed around with that before, like approach a story and think about some early laws that you're gonna make law, and that is it. And then how is someone gonna break all those laws? And then what laws does that set up? And how are you gonna break that? Because that I think is like kind of the key to the Sanderson avalanche.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna bring up Sanderson for that specifically.
He is a master at that, and it makes these huge moments. You're like, what? Like it was already so big, and now it's bigger. But I believed this was as big as it could get, and like there's a beautiful world building element there that I mean I'd imagine that is like that harkens back to his planning. So
he made the entire first book a prison cell.
Yeah,
You're seeing it from that perspective the entire time, and there's just so much more out there.
So if you're a planner, if you're a diagrammer and all that, I highly like throw that in, like throw in like some rules to be broken. And if you're a how do you an intuitive writer, where you're writing on the spot, like just rolling by the seat of your pants, like challenge yourself to hop over, like break through the walls of whatever is guiding that, and remind yourself that you can always break this if you need to. Sometimes if you find yourself in a writer's block scenario, like, well, throw a nuke on it, and then establish the new laws.
It's also just so much about what the characters know. It's like you're speaking of it in terms of like laws, but it's like they're not always like the laws of the physical universe. It's like oftentimes just like what people think are the rules of the magic system. That's how you see it in Sanderson a lot.
It's perspectives.
Yes. And so it's like if you're
what
writing
people take as fact.
If you're writing intuitively, like I've had plenty of times where I've been writing a magic system or something that I'm really into, and then halfway through I'm like, oh, this would be really interesting if they just actually didn't know this about it, or if they only knew half of the thing, and then you go back and you can just like change their perspective on it.
Yeah. And that,
or there's unknowns,
and then you have that depth back there. You break it, and then it's like, but there's no how or why or why to why you broke it. Well, then you just opened up another like area of depth that you could focus on.
The next prison
later.
cell, the prison building.
Yeah.
That they will also eventually have to break out of. Yeah.
Oh, it's so cool.
Mistborn did that too, because he just keeps coming up with new metals.
Exactly. Like the whole system in Mistborn is like you're led to believe, and we shouldn't talk about it too much, but you're led to believe one thing, and it's just like the whole thing operates in another way, and that's part of the story is how people have been led to believe that something that's not true. So.
Yeah, and the payoff is huge in the third. Yeah, just anyway.
So Ben, give us some examples of like world building in your personal writings.
Oh yeah, so I did a screenplay in my last year of undergrad. I wrote a 120-page screenplay. That was like one of the biggest kind of fantasy world building exercises that I ever did. And the world for that, I thought was pretty cool. The idea of it was like, it's a planet that was inhabited with humans, and at some point it was like 500 years ago, angels came to Earth and started breeding with the humans, or an angel came to Earth and started breeding with the humans called Abaddon, and it creates this offspring of Nephilim, which become these creatures that just totally take over the Earth and end up warring with humanity and killing off all of humanity. And there's 200 people who escaped and fled to the mountains. And in this world, the human lifespan was like 1,000 years. They're sort of like elves and other things, I guess, but like that's just how long humans live in this world. And so they're like 1,000, but in the way that the Nephilim drain the life of everything, they kind of sap the life of the planet. Trees die, rivers run dry. The human lifespan also shrinks. Did
you map this stuff out before you started writing, or did this stuff kind of flesh out as you were writing?
Honestly, I was like 13 when I started writing this like world, and so I think I was like 22 when I finished writing the screenplay. So it was like like a long time. There were many stages of like brainstorming, but it was mostly just like me imagining scenes in my head, slowly building out what a story would be around this.
What was the screenplay called again? I forget.
Apostate.
Oh yeah.
And we'll have Apostate up on the Right Guys site as well.
Sure. Yeah. So so the humans escaped, and it's the plot is like it's been 200 years since they escaped, so the human lifespan has been shortened from 1,000 to like 500 years. And so now the people who were like adults who were like fighting in the military back then are now like elders. And so there's like 5 elders. There's only like 5 people who are over like the age of like 350. And they are ruling over this little city in the mountains that the Nephilim can't reach because their tower can't see into the mountains. So they don't go there. And it's just the story of the humans who are trying to survive on this planet, and there's like only like 200 of them left. and they think that the Nephilim have come into the mountains. That's kind of like the inciting incident that starts it off. Yeah.
Love that. So with like what when you were what are some like elements of like or did you mess with like physics at all, like with like Nephilim coming, like angels and stuff like that? Like I always think like different like in terms of video games, like different damages, and like how there's like all the elemental damages, but there's also like chaos damage and holy damage and stuff like that. Like what like angels bring in like a spiritual side of things and a whole nother realm, so to speak. Like how did that influence what happened, like it being an angel instead of it being like say a wizard or any other type of like magical being? What did the element of like angels, because I feel like that was probably an early
I mean
idea.
Probably from you guys, honestly. Probably from listening to Sleeper shit. I was like, oh yeah, Nephilim, sons of angels and like demons and shit. But like,
how did that impact, like them being angels specifically? How did that impact how they affected the earth?
Yeah, so thematically, it is pretty important, and I guess I'll spoil it because it's my own screenplay, and like no one's gonna really read the whole thing probably if they haven't already. But
you should go read it. It's great though.
Yeah, if you want to go read it, then skip the next 5 minutes. You could do that if you don't want the spoiler. But basically, like the whole theme of this story is about sacrifice, and no one really knows how to kill the Nephilim. And how you do it is, while it's like draining your ally, you have to kill the human that it is like draining. So like when you're in combat with them, they will enter the state of like locking in, like and like lasering a human. And so like you kill your ally and then they become vulnerable. And so like there's
what a sacrifice.
Yeah.
The soul stone.
So that there's like this whole element of like sacrifice involved that feels a little bit more like religious, and then by the end of the story, the angel at the end, Abaddon, the only way to kill Abaddon is to force Abaddon to kill. And so it's like this next layer of sacrifice.
That's so cool, and that hits exactly with kind of where I was getting, where you had this idea of like in this world angels came down, and then it's like, okay, well then if I'm dealing with angels, and then that went to like basically like soul for soul, like and that's something that is in angel culture, is like a lot of talk about the soul, the spirit, and so them being in there and like a part of your combat system and everything ends up having to do with a soul. It takes a soul to take that soul. And that's a beautiful thing of world building, and how much just every element that you put in your world can have huge effects. And if you kind of pay attention and think about what does this change, then you can have these beautiful, like when you said that, like I got chills, and I've already read it, and I just remembered that's how you kill the Nephilim, and I was like, God, that works so well. It like when you make those ties, it makes the world feel more real and it makes it more immersive. You would kill a Nephilim by sacrificing another soul. Like that just makes sense.
It was one of probably the craziest moment I've had in like my experience in doing intuitive writing, was writing through the whole setup of that story is just about how no one knows how to kill them. And like you're introduced to the military leader who in the past, the one guy who's alive who killed them, and he won't tell anyone or talk about it. And I was like, why won't he? And I didn't know why. And I was like, I don't know what it is, and I don't know what this thing could be that he wants to keep it a secret. And like,
this is your character?
Yeah. And I just knew that one day I was going to have to write the scene where he actually kills them, and I was going to have to figure it out. And like as I was sculpting out that scene and writing it, I like saw what he had to do, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's fucking crazy!" And I was just an audience member.
Yeah. God, I love that. That's the flow state. That's that where your story just starts taking off, and you're like just trying to write it fast enough, and you're like, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. You know, it'd be that mechanic. Like, think about if they had that in like World of Warcraft, where you're doing like a 40-person raid on a boss, and you're still trying to figure out how to get him, and like you figured out all 4 phases of him, and the last phase, his health gets down to 1, but it just won't go past it. He's like some kind of like demon or angel or whatever, and then you realize that like he has to kill.
He drains one of your teammates, and he gets his whole health bar back. He kills them from draining them. But like if you kill them, that's how it works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, friendly fire would have to be on somehow.
Oh yeah,
that would be an interesting thing for you to realize. You go into this raid, you're on for like 2 hours, and everyone's decided you're the guy who has to die, so everyone else can loot. You're like, but man, that guy would be a champion. One more thing I want to hit on that we're all tied into on world building is an experience, a journey, a quest that we went on for a thing called the Demon Slake.
Oh man!
If we want to talk about world building,
you want to talk to Maiden?
Oh, there's Creve.
Grieve.
So we've touched on this in the past couple episodes here and there, but Shane, why don't you tell everybody, like give everybody the rundown of like set the scene here with Ben
of
coming
him,
down and everything.
So Ben spent we had no idea how much Ben had actually put into this. But
we had never played Dungeons and Dragons before either.
We were virgins to that, and Ben's like, so I'm flying down, and I've spent like a week writing this campaign.
I think it was 2 weeks. He said he stayed up for a couple nights straight or something.
But basically he showed up, and
he was adamant that we had to play Dungeons and Dragons. He was like, "You guys really need to do this. I think you'll love it." And then
we weren't. I personally wasn't ready for the time
commitment. I got there, and I was like, "All right, we're gonna need 8 hours a day, at least 3 days."
I was like, "I'm married, bro. I don't know." But yeah, Micah built a table for it, an epic table for this campaign, and Ben just wrote this. Exactly what I like for my character and exactly what Mike is into for his character. And we were just fucking superheroes for 3 days? 4 days?
It was a weekend.
Stretched,
3 days.
3,
something
maybe
like that.
three and a half.
Man.
Yeah,
oh god, it was so epic too.
Take us into the world.
Yeah,
take us into the world, Ben.
The Demon Slake is a campaign for 2 players, for beginner players who you want to be able to experience end game content while still maintaining the tension of early game stress. So you have low
for
level...
people who don't know anything about Dungeons and Dragons, like how long does a normal campaign last?
Yeah, so a Dungeons and Dragons campaign, like the campaign that I ran before this one with Micah and Shane, I was running for a year, and my group would meet every month or a couple times a month, and we would play for like a whole weekend when we would meet up. We would get together, we would play at night, we would sleep there, then we would play all through the next day. And just like have snacks ready, like have food ready, like we just wake up and sit at the table and play all day and stay in character. And that lasted a year of that, doing that like monthly or a few times a month. And so like that was I don't know, like 100 hours, 150 hour campaign. The Demon Slake's like a 20 to 30 hour campaign, more like a video game length. And it is we did it in a weekend. we did get through it. It was an admirable effort from you guys. And yeah, it was the actual campaign book I think is like 40 pages, but that's not including
And you
these,
wrote a campaign book that you wrote 40 pages.
Yes. Yeah, I wrote this whole thing.
Yeah.
So how I wanted to open it was I actually have the document in front of me, and like in the D&D in sort of the parlance of how they manage their documents, they're like these headers, like their title, the chapter titles that will just sort of happen in the middle of like the column. And they'll oftentimes be like a pun or just like a quote or a phrase. And like my first one was like, the heroes are coming to town. That was like my little first thing. And that is this group showing up to town that I sort of wrote this part to represent the feeling of you guys coming into town on tour and what it's like being in like a little town that Shane and Micah come into. So there's these heroes that are coming through their town, and meanwhile these two are like some half elf and elf boys who live in like this woodland realm, and there's these heroes who are on their way to slay a demon or something. And so they when they stop in, you get a glimpse of their weapons. And I was basing these on like what iconic weapons I had seen Micah and Shane sort of like talking about and using, which was Valinyar, the Micah character, was like a huge axe, like a great axe. And so Valinyar would like raise his axe up to the sky while he like proclaims his entry to the city. And then if you look to the side, you can see Sasue like slinking in. That's Shane with his bow and arrow, just like hunting in, like trying to like figure out if he can like find out what's going on with like the hunting party to like go get food later or something. And it's like you meet these characters, and then you have like Micah and Shane's actual characters go to prepare food. They go on the hunting trip.
Yeah, those aren't us. We're in the town when they enter, and we're like,
Yeah.
whoa, look at these guys.
Yeah. And so they're elf boys. So what were your actual names? It was
Thamior Brightwood.
Oh man, what was mine?
Areo.
Areo.
Yeah.
Areo, yes.
And so they went out to do the hunting party. When they get back, the town is on fire and it's been like completely destroyed, and the weapons that the heroes had are in the Great Hall, but they've been like cursed with whatever energy is of the thing that has destroyed the town, which is the demon that the heroes were coming to hunt. It left behind these two great weapons as like cursed objects that have basically taken on the nature of the demon that came through the town, which becomes your mission, right? Is to avenge your town, to avenge your mom who's gone, right? And so you take these weapons and they start talking to you, and they like have personality. And this is the vehicle of how I orchestrated giving you guys end game content while being low level characters with low HP, was like extremely powerful cursed weapons that had downsides, but also would allow you access to extremely high levels of power. And so you basically leave this interaction and go out to start making your journey toward the demon, which like you actually just follow the trail of like death that it left. Like there's like it's called the Slake Trail, I think. And so you guys just follow that out. You make your way. There's a city that you stop in the middle of the game where a lot of the plot and gameplay takes place. There's opportunity for some like political things here. There's social interactions, social challenges, things that you're not solving with combat. That was another part of the game I really wanted you guys to experience. And then once you sort of deal with those things and you move on your way, you go to the Slake Lair, which is like sort of this Doom-esque inspired like landscape of like a cave that just resembles hell, or like a lava pit.
Hellscape.
Yeah, so like as you enter in, you're basically getting locked in rooms with different demons that like you're getting put up to challenges with these weapons, and the weapons get stronger as your like bond with them is increasing, and the weapons do really crazy things, and maybe now would be a good time to talk about that.
Well, there was some puzzle aspect to that
Yeah.
bit too, and in true Micah and Shane fashion, when we arrived at that city that Ben was talking about, we went straight to a bar and met this bartender named Creve, and spent
Yeah.
most of our time in that bar.
So yeah, for anyone who hasn't been a part of Experience the Dungeons and Dragons campaign, it's the best gaming experience I've ever experienced. Period. It beats anything that you can do because it's all like immersion acting, and you basically just put yourself there, and it's free. It's an open world. You can do whatever you want, and basically his challenge as dungeon master was to create these spaces these playgrounds where Shane and I can literally come up with any decision that we want. He doesn't give us a list of decisions. It's just like, okay, that's all you know right now. What do you want to do? And like, I remember he gave us a list of these interesting places there were and all this stuff. And I remember like the first thing when we got loose, he's like, what do y'all want to do? And it's like, you said there was an inn, right? And he was like, he's like, yep. And it's like, Ario, care for a drink? And so we just go straight to the bar, and Ben has to, as creating this world for us to play in, he has to account for any choice that we could possibly make. So of course, he's already anticipated this. So there is a bartender in the inn, and the bartender has a name and a backstory, and it starts turning a piece of the puzzle. Like the story starts progressing through that. It's amazing. For every choice that you choose, there's 10 other that he wrote that we didn't choose, but it's still created. So there is that depth feeling
and the ability to adapt them on the fly, because it's like with D&D, it's like it's something people have tried to capture in games and claim that they've captured in video games like throughout time, since Fable was like a really notorious one of like, oh, here's a game where you can do anything, you can be good or bad, and you can like make all your own decisions. And it's like people really ran away with that idea in their head from what the marketing was saying, and it really couldn't live up to what was promised in the end. But D&D really is that, because instead of a game engine, you have a person's brain who's sitting next to you pretending to be a game engine. And so like if you have something that you're bringing up, and like you said, I wrote 10 options for every choice that you made. It's like the game designer who's creating a digital game has to write 100 choices for every one that you make, but it's still not as adaptable. And It's like, yeah, I only wrote 10, but like all 10 of those ideas could be taken in 100 different directions based on what you're doing. So it's like, yeah, I had enough lines in the city where it's like, there's 100 things going on. So wherever you guys want to go, something's going to fit in. And if it's like close enough, then there's really no problem at all making something work.
So cool. It's like a VR experience.
Yeah. After about your first hour, you feel like you're there. Like whenever we would break and then just go have like dinner or something, it was like, whoa, like, where am I?
Yeah.
And we were also wearing like full armor and carrying swords and stuff in real life.
My cloak for sure. Anyway, back to the weapons. Get on with that, bro.
Yeah. So the weapons were probably my favorite part of the campaign. So I really wanted to, this was the meat and potatoes of me really trying to capture something specific for Shane and Micah that would like fit their personalities, because the weapons that they're using, the D&D combat, in my opinion, is the part of the game that can be the most stale. It's pretty much like a numbers game of just rolling a die and seeing if you get over a certain number every time, and then just like doing the math on how much damage you dealt. But there are really creative ways you can use those systems if you're thinking outside the box and being a human, and like thinking about like, oh, well, I don't just want to do 2 attack on my turn. I want to like run around this space and interact in this way and do this. And that is just hard to facilitate as a game designer, just trying to come up with other creative solutions of things that can work during combat. And so one way to do that is weapons with interesting rule sets. And so like just to off the bat give you guys a way to interact with combat that is deeper than just the hit and block system. It's like giving you the tools to creatively work out new solutions. And that's like what late game magic does for you in D&D. But yeah, so the weapons themselves, the full drawn was the bow, and that was basically like the quiver of arrows was enchanted, and when you would it started with like 5 different arrows, and each one was a different element, and you could just fire arrows and they're different elements, and when you would get a kill, all of your arrows would replenish, was like how it worked. So if he struck the finishing blow on an enemy, then his arrows would come back. And he as he deepened his bond with the bow, he got more arrows. There were more than just 5 flavors. There ended up being like 10 to 25 different arrow types. And
which, if he hasn't used it, he didn't know what it did. Like he would have to use it for the first time blindly to figure out what it would do.
Yeah, I would only describe for him what they looked like. And
so that was awesome.
As he was putting them on the bow to fire, he was allowed to make an Arcana check, and that would allow him to, if he passed the Arcana check, to know what it was going to do in advance. Or
a check is a roll of the dice.
Yeah, and he could also make an Arcana check to alter the effect to be something that he wanted. So it was a fully creative system in that I was also willing to just be changing the effects of the arrows on the fly. But what went even deeper about the arrows is that Shane had an ability to fire 2 arrows at the same time. And so what I did was I created a grid in Google Docs or Google Sheets, and I spent about like 2 days just creating a specific individual unique combination for every possible set of 2 arrows.
And I didn't use them all, and I have no idea.
He used like 10 of the 100 something combos in the campaign.
So cool, too.
And they're all there. So yeah, that spreadsheet is a whole part of it. And this is a packet. The Demon Slake I want to release online somewhere. So hopefully this will all be available at some point soon for people to get.
Well, don't spoil the ending, because it was so sick.
Yeah,
God, it was so sick.
So like he would basically like whenever like Shane would be like, okay, I want to use the ice arrow and the vine arrow, know, and he's like, okay, he rolls, he gets a good roll, and then Ben takes off, and he's like, as you stare down the enemy, you draw your bow back to your cheek. You draw the string back to your cheek, and the frigid cold starts and vines start to wrap around. Vines and tendrils of frost start to wrap around, combining into blah blah blah. And like we're just sitting at a table, but Shane and I are just like looking at each other wide eyed, like, oh my god, and like. He releases it, and Ben like has this description, this cinematic of what's happening when this is all going down.
And they were so
huge,
good. The expectations were just so good.
Every time was this moment of discovery for us, and it was so special. It was so memorable. Like it was an event. We had been through something together, and sometimes the combinations were not good. Not what you wanted. And it's like, shit, like we got to do something we know. You got another one of those blink arrows, like blah, blah,
Dude, when I paired the blink arrow with something else, and Ben described it as it touched my cheek, like it started flickering in and out of existence around.
Yeah, to different places in reality. Like, oh my God.
Before I shot it, it was just like.
We're both just sitting there like, oh no.
Yeah. If you want, you could. I could read them to you, and you guys could choose a combo to fire off right now.
Oh, let's do it. Oh,
yeah.
Hell yeah. Okay. Well, what does he have in his quiver?
Yeah, so I have this sheet in front of me. There were 14 arrows by the end. It was fire, ice, forest, silence, thunder, blades, water, teleportation, infinity, stealth, message, blink, darkness, sleep. That's actually 13. The last one he got only for the last fight, and I'm not going to talk about that one.
Yeah, because that one ended up ending the campaign, that arrow. So,
Okay, Shane, you pick.
I can't remember which ones that I already used.
Well, just pick two randomly that he said.
Go blink and name a few more. Sorry,
Like
go blink and shadow.
Okay, blink and shadow, which was okay.
I think I might have used that one though, but they're all so cool. It doesn't matter.
I kind of want to hear Blink and Blades.
Ooh, blink and blades works for me.
Blink
Let's
and
do
blades.
let's do Blink and Blades.
Okay. Hang on, this spreadsheet is actually not easy to navigate. It's blades is right.
But Ben, I want you to put us there as he pulls them from the quiver.
You got it.
Oh, you guys are in for a treat.
My
this was
character was so
3 days.
sly, too. Like he kept sliding along the, he's slithery.
Yeah,
Well,
your dex was stacked.
Go for it, bro.
The blink and the blades arrow would be like, so as you're drawing the blink arrow, which is this purple kind of ethereal arrow, on most of them you have the separation between the shaft and the blade. But this one is one solid color. Your eyes cannot discern any outline within the arrow. It just seems to be a void of space. So as he takes it out, you notice that as soon as it leaves the quiver, it just starts like trembling and vibrating in like an existential kind of way. And you see like his hand like trying to like grip it, and he just pulls it down, pulls back. The arrow is still, it's holding the tension of the string, but you can see that the string is totally wiggling under the pressure as it starts to split off. And so like he pulled that out obviously with the blades arrow, which just looked like a normal arrow. But now as they get onto the string together and they start to blend together, the blink arrow on the bow starts to spread out. And what you noticed before of it kind of coalescing and appearing in different places, it seems to be appearing in many places at once now, where there's like a small horde of arrows forming, and they all shoot out and disappear. As soon as they release from the bow, they disappear, and then you just see in front of you the target that you were shooting at, just 3 arrows. Did I just lose audio?
No.
Okay, I lost my headphones. But yeah, 3 arrows slam into their chest, just pretty much appearing right there in front of them.
Dead shot. Bam.
Probably could have shot that through walls.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah,
man.
that's what
that would have been perfect. Yeah. There's guards on the other side of the wall, and like just blink that thing straight through the wall. Drax that fool. Oh, that's so sick.
There were some that were definitely utility based. I remember a lot of the Vine ones were utility based.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh, I just realized with the blink arrow, you get to decide the exact location that they're hitting on the body.
Oh, that's right.
So
let's draw another one. I want to hear. Okay, give me forest and water.
Forest and
I think I did that one.
That's totally one that you would draw.
Yeah.
Forest arrow. Got it.
I tried to put the forest, but I had to kill something to get it back, so we had to be,
Yeah.
conservative with the shots.
Yeah. So this would just be the dude, something happened in my headphones. Like, I can only hear it in one ear now, and it's super throwing me off. Oh,
It's that chord for sure.
Yeah. Whatever.
Edit and post.
Yeah. So you would draw the 2 arrows, the forest arrow and the water arrow would begin to bind together on the bow. The vines from the forest arrow becoming tendrils of water, as it sort of looks like this spiraling, like of the vines
Vortex.
coming. Yeah, so it's like rippling up and down of like multiple vines going up and down the arrow. You pull it back and you shoot, and it lands at the feet of your target and spreading out immediately from that space in a 20-foot pool of a circle, a massive pool of water, like vines and tentacles, starts to shoot up, and there's like just these latching like frosty, like white capped, just splashing out waves, just like grasping at things, just like pulling them in. And any creatures that are within the space of entanglement would need to make a dexterity save to like be released from the water to be able to move.
Yes. So it stays there just like
Yeah.
Oh, that's sick. So this was something just huge about the world building for this campaign, of course, was the weapons. And that was something that Ben and I were talking about on when we were just discussing this episode and what all we wanted to cover. And in talking about world building, every book that you read, every fantasy, sci-fi, or most of them out there, like has a weapon element, and whatever and what weapons are available says a lot about the world, about the time, how powerful that weapon is, says a lot about who if you have a gun that has one bullet but you can control the whole room, then that means that no one else has a gun, and maybe guns are super rare. If you have like a laser blaster, then that means lasers exist. If you have an arrow that can blink in and out of existence, then that means that there are some like transdimensional possibilities in this world. And then also the person who carries that weapon, there's a reason that person carries that weapon. Why do we have these low level people carrying this? Like, well, if we're low level and we have these massive weapons, then we must have just gotten them. And so that sets up like, how did they get that weapon? How are they wielding it? What do they do with it? Like the weapon that you choose in your world and that you make available in your world can really write a lot of your story and fill in a lot of the gaps if you pay attention to it. And that certainly happened in here, where he gave us our weapons and it determined so much of how we carried ourselves. And in D&D it's so cool because it is sandboxy. So it's not what does my character do with this weapon? It's what do I do with this weapon? What does Micah want to do with this? What does Shane want to do with this?
And your weapon had a lot of punch too.
Yeah.
Totally other style of gameplay though.
Yeah.
Self-sacrifice, like.
Yeah. So Micah's weapon was basically scaled. The strength of it was scaled to match like how dire his hit point situation was. So the weapon was formed of his blood. So like the more blood he would bleed in a battle, the larger his weapon would physically become. And he would unlock deeper states of like unwellness as he progressed. Like it started off where like, oh, the weapon's just a little stronger if he's like below half health. And then it's like, oh, he unlocks this 25% threshold. That's like, oh, the weapon's getting really strong now at that stage. And then by the end, he starts getting this
if I can get myself down to like one health, then
so
it's
there's
like
this ability in D&D called like I forget what it is called, but Micah's character and Micah's weapon was called the Last Stand, and one of its abilities was this Death Ward. Oh yeah, that's what it's called, Death Ward. That it like near the end, it's very often putting on you this Death Ward that if you die instead of dying, you just drop to 1 HP. And that's like to keep you at the state of max power, which is an incredibly dangerous state, not only because you die in one hit, and not only because 1 HP is especially vulnerable, because being overkilled, meaning if you get hit once while you're alive and you go down to a negative HP value that's lower than your max HP in absolute value, like say you have 50 max HP, you're at 1 health, and you lose 51 HP, that's overkill. And that means you can never be revived or resurrected.
Game's over. I go home.
Keeping yourself at 1 HP is like really dumb for that reason. But the weapon also, while it's at 1 HP, a lot of its abilities are hurting you. And so like you're just dying if you attack, but it's so devastatingly powerful that like sometimes you might as well.
Yeah. Like if I'm already going out, or I'm down to 1 HP and it's like, shoot, I gotta swing this thing. But 1 through 4 is gonna kill me. 5 through 20 is gonna do something insane. Like but you just take those risks. But man, that like alone, and the whole like story behind it, the idea of this weapon and how it like, because Ben wrote them after our personalities and like inquisitive researcher, and
even the names of the weapons are references to your guys' identities.
Yes,
right? Which we should touch on. The last man in the full draw.
Last man in the full draw. But it's so cool. Like he wrote this amazing element about this world inspired off of the character that he was writing it for, and in writing that, it created magic systems and all the stuff that would go into it. So that's just an encouragement on if you are working weapons in, or trinkets, or whatever the tool is that your character has, like give it a why. Don't just give it to him. Like, why does he have it? And what does that change about him? And what does blah, blah, blah. Like it really can. And what does that mean about the world? Putting thought into that just adds so much depth to your writing, in my opinion.
Or go the other way, where the weapon means nothing. Like go with Weirin of Bly, where the Father of Swords.
Yeah, but that alone, like the story of his weapon, it's like, well, he's got this huge sword, he never draws it or something, like that. Yeah. That's like, what's going on with that? Like it's
again,
so
your
cool.
imagination fills in the one part.
So I want to we need to keep moving.
Yeah, for sure.
But that was the Demon Slake, the D&D campaign that Ben wrote for us, and hopefully that'll be up where you can grab it too sometime. The next thing is a segment. Next up is a segment that I'm going to be hosting. We're going to play a little game here. This is called Abstract Armory. We're going to play Abstract Armory, which y'all are going to choose 3 numbers between 1 through 10. And it will draw a specific weapon. I have set up I've set up a list of 1 through 10 nouns, 1 through 10 adjectives, and 1 through 10 plural nouns. It will be a blank of the blank. Whenever we draw this,
it all makes sense. You just pick 3 numbers, Shane.
Okay, yeah.
So we're gonna, y'all are just gonna draw. Y'all are gonna draw a weapon, and we're gonna talk about what the hell that thing would be and what it would look like, and come up with some ideas about it. Okay, so who wants to go first?
I'll go first. I'm the guest.
Okay, give me 3 numbers 1 through 10.
3, 6, 9.
Nice. Okay. Shane, you have drawn the terrible horn of the dwarven tribes.
That fits.
Yeah, that totally works. Okay,
can we say off the bat that it's like it's a really bad musical instrument, and it can do other stuff too, but like it's like just really pitchy. Like, this is a terrible horn.
It's actually a bad horn. Should not be used for its horn properties.
Mostly, yeah, it's good to throw at people. That's about
it. Well, it like summons something really foul too, like a gaseous, like disgusting, like demon fiend creature.
So I'm thinking, like, if it's a terrible horn of the dwarven tribes, I like the idea of weapons having a high cost. If it's got high power, it's got to have high cost. If this is a terrible horn, I'm thinking like when you blow it, maybe if it is used to be, if we do decide to make it to where you use it that way, we actually play it. It deafens. It like deafens everybody, or what? Like momentarily, or including you. Still like only for dire purposes, or is the terrible horn of the Dwarven tribes? Is it like the tusk of like this gigantic megafauna that is actually a club, but every time you hit something, it's like. I don't know. What do y'all think? What is this? What are y'all seeing?
Yeah,
the terrible horn of the Dwarven tribes.
It's hard for me not to think of just the Balrog's horn. You know what I mean?
Okay, I like that.
You delve too deep.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there's history there. That makes sense. So this is a Balrog
totally
horn.
works.
So it's smoldering. It's like embering. When you blow it, it embers.
Okay, wait. Can you blow the Balrog horn?
Yeah, your mouth would just. They turn. If you do it, you turn to ash. You're dead. But something happens.
Someone has hollowed it out and turned it into a musical instrument.
Oh, what if terrible horn of the Dwarven tribes? Guy brings it out, blows it. It incinerates him to ash, but raises the Balrog for like 24 hours or like
a minute.
Like a minute. So like something like that.
I'm saying minute in the colloquial sense.
Okay.
It's back
But
for a
yeah,
minute.
Yeah.
he's around. He basically comes from the ashes, and now you got a freaking Balrog. But you can't control a Balrog.
No. Also, there needs to be a mouthpiece that was made by the elves or something that you have to go on a quest to find.
Oh, that's a very good call.
Yeah.
The horn doesn't work on its own.
No.
Yeah, so there's a quest involved. So this could be a part of Abstract Army. There has to be a quest to complete the weapon or achieve the weapon or obtain the weapon, and then how to destroy the weapon.
Okay. Well, do we like the idea of like if you use the person who uses this thing has to sacrifice their life to bring forth the Balrog?
It could be, or if you have the mouthpiece, then you can survive it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to touch it with your lips, and you can survive.
But the mouthpiece breaks every
Yeah.
use. You got to get another. You have to get another one. Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, Balrog horn, elven mouthpiece. Okay, that's sick. Okay, Ben, you ready to draw yours?
Yeah.
Okay, give me 3 numbers. We'll see what you pull from the Abstract Armory.
777.
777. You have drawn the hissing mirror of kings.
All right. So why does it hiss? I'm seeing steam.
Yeah, what is that?
Yeah, I'm seeing steam. What do you see when you look into it? That's
It's
what
the
we really.
mirror of kings.
It's a weapon. Like maybe when you
Yeah.
look into it, your skin starts burning, like hissing, like your reflection does, and you actually. What if it's like shit that happens to your reflection happens to you or something? Like you like in some like.
I was thinking more knowledge. Like it's all the past kings of old in that mirror that you can play off of and ask them wisdom, which is a weapon.
Oh, that's cool. So why does it hiss?
Maybe each bit of knowledge takes a part of you or something.
It's hissing.
It could be it could be like venomous and serpentine in nature. Like it's like super evil. Like it will give you info and power, but it's also trying to twist you to its will. And so like people know it's sort of like a malignant force, so they call it the hissing mirror.
Oh, I love that. Okay. Okay, so yeah, it's this mirror, and you can ask it things, but it's kind of like two truths and a lie type thing. You know,
Dude,
like,
and it's called the Mirror of Kings, not because the kings are in it, but because the people who get it tend to become king. Like
It's a
it steers you
kingmaker.
toward power, and then it uses the power for itself, right?
Yes.
I like that.
Okay, I like that a lot. So this is a how would you say that? Mirror that guides to power.
With its own nefarious intentions.
With its own.
The only way to destroy it is to hold a mirror up to it, and it self implodes.
Ooh. Ooh. Okay, so we've drawn the Balrog horn. So we've drawn the terrible horn of the dwarven tribes, which is a Balrog horn. If used, it will incinerate the user and raise a Balrog for a limited amount of time, unless paired with the elven mouthpiece that will shatter upon one use, but will not kill the user.
The
So we
practical
got that.
use would be like throwing a Saiyan at a planet.
Yeah, like that, or like, if you don't have the mouthpiece, you could like suicide bomb something, pretty much like run in, have someone run in, blow it, and all of a sudden there's a Balrog at the city gates. You just want to be very far away from it when it happens.
Mm-hmm.
Which that's also makes it dangerous. Say you got the elven mouthpiece, you're not going to die when this thing gets summoned, but you're also going to be very close to it when it gets summoned. That's going to be dangerous. And then we have the hissing mirror of kings, which is a magical mirror that nefariously will guide you to power, that you can ask for advice along the way. It tends to be a kingmaker,
A political weapon.
Yes. It tends to be a kingmaker, but it seems to have its own intentions.
Yeah. And I
like
think I mean, should we dictate the destruction method, or should that be something that is in people decide for themselves?
Okay, yeah. So
Either. Or should we talk about
I think
this?
we should talk about it. Well, we could kick some ideas around. We'll leave it open. But how would you destroy the Balrog horn? How would you destroy the terrible horn of the dwarven tribes?
It'd have to be smote upon a mountain somehow.
Oh my
At the
god!
top of a mountain in the snow.
Oh my! Its ruin would have to be smote across the mountainside. So frost is an element for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Cold.
Yeah.
The dwarven tribes, I think maybe like a dwarf has the answer. Okay. Ice Forge is coming to mind. Like, you have to find like the dwarven Ice Forge of legend, where they can create a. I don't know.
I think in the book, or in the like Gandalf had to die to kill the Balrog.
Yeah, there's
and he was like an equal match with it, I guess, on his level of wizardry. But like, if
you can't break the horn. You have to kill the Balrog that comes out.
That's it.
And once the Balrog's killed, the horn will not exist anymore.
Yeah.
It'll turn to ash.
Hey, I like that. Okay, so how do we destroy the hissing mirror of kings?
I kind of like the idea of holding it up to a mirror, like just thinking about the idea of seeing that like infinite plane of mirrors being the thing that like, but I feel like it needs to be connected to that, but it can't be that simple. I feel like it has to be seeing an infinite reflection while you ask it an unanswerable question or something.
I love that. Wow.
Oh, that's cool. I like that. Infinite realities. It doesn't know what it's looking at. It has to answer, because then it has to answer to itself.
Right. Yeah.
It just becomes inert because it glitches out.
It just melts in your hand. Hisses into a pool of steaming metal. I like that. Okay, so with the wrap up of Abstract Armory, we've drawn 2 diabolical weapons, and your next challenge, the next week's challenge, will be to write a story. We're going to do a shorter story this time. It's got to be between 50 and 250 words, where you show us a glimpse of either of these weapons in the world. It can be being used, it can be being sought after, something like that. But write a story around. Choose one and write a story around it from the Abstract Armory. So speaking of challenges, I think that brings us to where we're going to start wrapping this baby up, and let's talk about the challenges of last week.
Yeah, so I'm going to kick off. I'm just going to kick it off with this one from Shay. Thank you for submitting, Shay. Interior bedroom, 5 a.m. alarm. AI. Good morning, Rocky. We see a holographic face on a small machine. The camera tilts down to see Rocky sitting up in his bed, wearing a gray Henley, tired but pushing through to wake up. News AI. Today, in the forecast, another foggy day with smog in the air. Face coverings are recommended for those being out for extended periods throughout the day. Rocky lifts himself up and makes his way to the food atom generator across from his bed. He hits a holographic button on the machine. It glows with dozens of food options. He swipes to protein, then to egg, then to raw. Quantity, 5. 5 eggs emerges from the machine's plastic door. Rocky cracks the eggs into an old plastic cup and chugs them down as quickly as he can. News AI. Last night, a major sting in an underground boxing ring, utilizing android fighters as our local police departments fight for safer entertainment practices with their Alpha Android initiative, keeping androids safe. Rocky wipes his face and makes his way for the door. Exterior, Philadelphia slums, 5:15 a.m. The streets are dark and deserted, not a car in sight. Rocky does some stretches next to his apartment staircase, then makes his way out of the alleyway, swinging his arms. The camera widens to reveal truly no one in sight. A man works on a news ticker hologram, a blue illuminated old paper boy who shouts the news. The boy flickers and glitches as the man tightens the base of the machine with a wrench. Rocky runs by, now in full stride. Rocky runs to the archway by an old historic courthouse, flailing his arms. The sun's starting to come up. He makes his way to the base of a staircase. He runs up, maintaining his pace, skipping every step. Near the end, he slows down as he struggles to reach the top, gripping his side. The camera pans to see the historic building at the top, painted in the sun's red beams. Rocky stops and turns, out of breath. He coughs into his hands black oil. He limps down the stairs as we pan to see the deserted Philadelphia city, with holograms spilled across the skyline, an old Benjamin Franklin monument in the foreground, and a sign that reads, "Making humanity work for us, Alpha Android Initiative."
Nice. Hell yeah. So if you didn't read if you didn't listen to the last podcast, the challenge this week was called That But Then. It was off of a segment that we did called That But Then, where we randomly drew 3 popular stories in 3 time periods. And that one, and then challenged people to write stories around them. That one was for Rocky, set in a retro futuristic 2022.
That was really awesome. I mean, the line at the end was where the main revelation, out of breath, he coughs into his hands black oil. Yeah. It's like, oh, Rocky's an android.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, so the whole thing
that was the whole point. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole thing is setting up androids are doing the fighting in the rings now, and I was sort of thinking,
make humanity work for us, Alpha Android.
Yeah.
Okay, that all hit. Nicely done. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Ooh, good twist.
Yeah, because I was sort of thinking of it the whole time, there's Rocky. He's sort of the classic, he's the human guy, and he's hearing about all these androids fighting, and he's about to go do his thing, but then it's just this depressing scene, he just coughs oil into his hand and runs back down the deserted, and it's
oh, that's good. Well done, Shay. Thank you very much. I chose The Fast and the Furious, set in 10,000 BC. And here we go. All right, and where is it? It's right here. Oh, here we go. Okay. Berengia was wet, a little too wet, but Domtor had bigger problems. With a bag full of black glass and pink shell to a now blown out saber, he slipped from shadow to shadow amongst the strange mud caves these people made here. Trumpet blasts from the mammoth watch clashed in the night air with the roars and bleats of scrambling mounts as the watch chased down Domtor's fleeing rivals. He had left Mazdar, his crimson Similodon, in an abandoned stable he scouted days before. She knew the drill. He'd come back for her in the morning, but for now he had to vanish. Domtor's thoughts ceased as thunderous footfalls shook the earth around him with encroaching doom. A watchman atop a towering black and white woolly turned toward him and sauntered near. Domtor flicked up his hide cloak to cover the telling hair-forsaken pate they'd be spying and donned a relaxed demeanor as the shaggy titan patrolled by. It worked. The mammoth stopped and turned as the watchman howled, "Domtor!" It didn't work. The woolly let loose a sonic blast that stunned Domtor, jolting his only option to instinctual presence. Run. He burst into prey-like speed, darting left and right through the mud wall maze of the settlement. If he could just make it to the tree line, he could wait out the night. But where was his pack? They had to be looking for him, unless... He prayed the moon's blessings on them as he fled, expecting the worst. Domtor rounded the last turn to the tree line and frantically skid to a stop. "Domtor!" screamed the woolly's rider as the two towered between the now gasping Domtor and his freedom. Another trumpet blast slammed him from behind in near concussive volume. He turned again. Flashbacks of his 2 years in slavery under the watchman's whip invaded his mind as inevitability sank in. He was surrounded. The woolies began to close their distance when... "Dom!" A voice barked from the distance. "Dom, get on!" The voice now impossibly closer. "No!" An emerald saber cat carried the voice, soaring from the rooftop over his head and landing beside in a snarled halt. He couldn't believe his eyes. It was the same rider who almost bested him that very night, and the same saber whose pink shell now weighed in his purse. "Bricon? Get on now!" The man prodded. Domtor mounted the green beast, and the three bounded through the legs of the shaggy giants and into the tree line. They were safe. A while later, Bricon dropped Domtor off at his cave, where his worries were traded for rage when he found his pack in feasting revelry. He and Bricon entered to the great surprise of his brothers. "Domtor, you live! But how dare you bring the buster known as Bricon here?" Domtor tore the gourd bottle from his brother's hand and roared, "While you reveled, the buster kept me out of rope cuffs."
Rope cuffs.
I'm so glad that I didn't do the Fast and the Furious, because just like as it started, I was like, yeah, this is exactly what this needed to be. It's so good.
Badassery.
Yeah, it's just like just constant like intensity, and what you've done with all the writing challenges of just bringing this like extremely saturated, like just like filthy, like not Victorian. It's just like this, like just steeped in like I don't know how to describe it, like gothic, but it's like raw.
Awesome. Oh, hell yeah. Man, that was challenging. I had to do a lot of research. Basically, the whole week has been like I sat down, I watched Fast and the Furious again. I watched 10,000 BC, which was okay and not really accurate. So then I had to go to like a bunch of YouTube videos and watch like what was life like in 10,000 BC, what was possible, what was the currency. Turns out obsidian glass was starting to be used as currency.
Oh, because of their sharp edges.
Yep. And beauty and everything, and like and mystery behind them. So, in the Fast and Furious, like it's one of the it's towards the beginning, but he wins. Dominic is the guy's name. Dominic Tourette or whatever. So Dom Tour, and then Brian O'Connor is Brycon, and he's the other guy. But basically, he wins the race. He wins all this money, and he wins the pink slip to the dude's car, this green badass car. And so the pink shell was the pink shell to the Saber. And having him and like in the movie, he like they gets busted up by the cops, and everyone runs, and he like just parks in this garage that's near, and then just kind of like walks out like nothing happened. So like making like his like I'd like look up like what kind of car he drove, and he drove a Mazda, so Mazdar is his Saber's name.
So good.
And so I was like, how do we know it's 10,000 BC? What big event was happening in 10,000 BC, and where is this thing going to be taking place? And turns out the land bridge, the Beringia, the land bridge between basically Russia and and America was sinking, or it was being flooded. And so like starting out, like, all right, how do we set the tone? Okay, Beringia was wet, a little too wet, starting to flood. But yeah, and it also turns out that in 10,000 BC they're starting to use gourds as bottles, kind of like in Sekiro.
Yeah.
So in that scene, whenever he finally shows up to the party, he goes in and he like snags the beer out of the guy's hand, and he's like, you brought the buster, and he's like, that buster kept me out of handcuffs. And I was down at the wire wrestling with shackles. They didn't have shackles. They didn't have metal working yet. Like they didn't have stone cuffs. Yeah. So I was like rope cuffs. All right, that's all I got. I just had to call it done.
It's good. Yeah.
Thanks.
I have never seen Fast and Furious, as we covered last episode. When I went to watch Titanic, afterwards I turned on the Fast and Furious. And the Titanic I thought was a great movie. The Fast and Furious I got through about 45 seconds before I
realized it's equally as good.
Yeah, before I decided that was all I needed to see to know it was just as good as Titanic.
Fair enough.
That probably has made as much as Titanic now.
Yeah,
fair.
they're on 11, so.
Yeah, it'd be pretty embarrassing if they hadn't. I feel like, right?
Oh, and I also like the woolly, like, is like how is it? I was like, how are we do like horns sounding? And I was thinking about like them having these birds that they like strangled, kind of like to make them squawk.
Yeah,
I don't know. I was going a lot of different directions. Then finally, I was like, oh, the woolly mammoth, and it's trumpeting horns or trunks. So yeah, the black and white woolly mammoth is the cop car.
Nice.
Okay.
The squawking birds would be too funny. Reminds me of Zazu from The Lion King for some reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's very Flintstones. Like, walk, walk.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
One of y'all are next.
Yeah,
I was
Shane.
definitely seeing Ice Age, like animation.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see. I hope this is the one I sent you guys. All right.
Let me look this up.
You want me to go?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Fight! The announcer's voice rang out as Rock entered the flow state of violence. After 22 years of retirement, he still had it. Dodge, left foot pivot, defend, get inside, duck, kidney shot, left to the head. A bell rang somewhere, and he could breathe. The crowd's wail a dull buzz. Another bell rang, and that's how it went. Bell, dance, bell, breathe. Rock, having no idea what round he was in, felt his body start to tire. They were trading blows, but nothing disabling. To this point, they were just testing each other. Have to find a weakness. Then he saw it. Left knee, surgery scar, make him change stances. Rock stepped in, faking a left to the body. The man pivoted in defense, and Rock launched his upper body with all he had forward, swing around a perfect right hand straight to the temple of the opponent. Huh, they'll be talking about this shot for years. The blow connected, and Rock dropped to the floor. Dazed, he glanced down at his hand. The gloved mass was hanging limp from his forearm, bone bursting through the skin, blood already pooling at his knees. He didn't have time to react as a shadow hurled itself at him, and Rock was on his back, the man a blur above, raining down blows. Bam! Rock felt his jaw break. An elbow came down. Thud. Rock felt his right eye socket collapse. Thud, thud, thud. Before Rock's vision left him, he caught a glimpse of the man's face. The cheek where his perfect hit had connected, the tissue was torn back, and underneath, something shined under the octagon's flashing lights. Is that metal? And all went black. He's ready, Doctor. Pain. Rock's head swam. He tried to open his eye, but the blinding light forced the eye back closed. Begin prep for the convergence, and bring the other one out of stasis. Pain. All went black again. Comrades, consider the contract fulfilled. We must thank the Fighting Federation for arranging his death. And the drone fought perfectly and baited the old man perfectly. All these years, comrades, the day has finally come. Za Zadrovia. Rock heard light applause from every direction as his head swam to make sense of anything. But he knew that voice, that accent. He willed his good eye open to see Ivan Drago strapped to a table across from him, hundreds of cables connecting to his body, falling over the table and running to my body. Oh, fuck. Rock tried to move, but was paralyzed, and for the first time since losing Adrian, he felt real fear. He scanned the room, searching for anything that could help. Giant machinery everywhere, masked men in lab coats and giant goggles. Rock then noticed a large, upright vat of liquid with a body inside. Large, well-muscled, dark skin. Oh my God. Drago met Rock's eye, thousands of lights and machinery blinking around. I will have what you had. Or no, I will have what made you better. I win. Proceed, Doctor.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
That's awesome.
Okay, so unpack this for me. Like give me the cliff notes.
So I was wondering what would happen had Ivan Drago, remember like in Rocky 4 where he was like, it might have been 5 actually, but either way, where he had like all the state of the art shit to train with, and Rock was just like had a log and a mountain.
Yes.
If Drago had really lost that last fight, and then 22 years later, what would he have been doing in that time? And obviously he invented a drone that could like mimic and get Rock to bait during this. I had this whole backstory. Like y'all only gave me 500 words, but
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah, basically, the Fighting Federation put together like this event, like a charity event. But they needed a way for like Rock to actually die publicly. So they could have his body.
Oh.
And then, Drago this entire time has been coming up with some way to get what Rock had. Even though he's invented drones that can beat Rock, he still needs what Rock had. Like, it's just been eating him this whole time. So they faked his death there. And then right at the end, you find out that vat over here with the dark body inside is Apollo Creed.
Apollo Creed, yes!
Who Drago also killed in the ring.
Right.
But didn't.
So, oh my God. So now Drago is going to be the culmination of Rocky, Drago, and Apollo. He has it all.
Yeah.
Woo! That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, that is
nicely
awesome.
done.
Thanks.
Oh, I love it.
Did you know when I was like begin prep for the convergence?
Yes. And when you said it, I saw a dark with dark skin. I was like, oh my God, Apollo Creed.
Yep.
I did not see
Oh.
the Ivan Drago thing coming. I haven't seen that Rocky movie,
Oh, it's
Oh,
so good.
but
yeah. Ivan kills Apollo Creed, and then
yeah.
Rocky fights him, and in the the last 15 seconds of the last round, he like takes him down.
Dude, well done, man.
Thanks, dude.
I love that his like he punched him and his hand just broke off basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, the writing is it's super like visual. It's really good.
Thanks, dude.
All like the actual fight scene makes sense. It's a good fight scene. Like you have the like you can notice things about it. You can follow like what's going on in that, like there's actual strategy. Which is like what you want to see, and then it doesn't get lost in the weeds of that. Like the action stays, like the pace keeps up with the action, and then like it's just, I think, a perfect blend of Rocky and the time period where you are like bringing in these other like weird technologies and things, also like political stuff with like Russia being like something that
Yes.
around like the whole retro future like image that just was always a part of that like sort
That
of time
totally,
period.
you're totally right. That so works with
Yeah.
with the Rocky, and that was totally a coincidence that retrofuturism got paired with Rocky, but that it is such a great trope to play because Rocky
Yeah,
did it, and that's and in like the 70s and stuff like that, they were very 60s and 70s. They were very concerned about about
No,
Yeah.
Cold War and all
Russia.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't want to, yeah, well, Micah sent me this on a text before I heard the podcast, and I already wrote this. And I had like the first iteration, which was longer. It started with "It's time," and then like Rocky, like zoned it out for a second. He was just like, you know, planning the fight out basically.
Yeah.
But it also like the the announcer said some backstory about Philly, and he was just a steam vent miner type thing.
Oh,
But either
that's
way,
so sick.
so whenever you said 500 words, I was like, oh god. So I just cut literally to where the dude goes fight and just started with the
Yeah.
fight scene.
Well, he didn't say that. He was like, I was like, well, it's got to be 500 words, and you're like, he was like, oh, well, it's not that, but it's good. I was like, it's got to be 500 words, and he was like, I can't do that. He's like, that's part of the challenge. He was like, and then the next day I saw you, you were like, I got it down. It's not as good now, but
Yeah.
it was so good.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Thanks, man.
Well done. It's so
fun,
these are
too.
so like just that little creative exercise. You took like two random ideas, and now there is this whole backstory, like steam vent miner. Like, what the hell is that? You know,
Yeah,
like
but-
just the it's all set. It now exists. Like now it's now a movie I want to watch.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, bin.
Okay, so I did Titanic. Kind of worked out perfectly. The three of us all having different takes on the challenge. So mine is called The Ballad of Baxton Reed and the Drowned Quartet.
Ballad of Baxton Reed and the Drowned Quartet. I gotta pull this up.
Me too.
Kyra counts us in. Clack. Bow against her cello. Clack. Four heads nod together. Clack. 8 ears hear the score. Clack. Melody rips through the air like lemon zest, dancing flames on ultraviolet, passing hordes of panicked passengers slow to listen. The chaos of the sinking ship is anchored for a moment. No one knows what happened down below. The crew claims ice has breached the hull, but no such glaciers would haunt this bay. Either way, our fate is made. We have no recourse but to play. And on we carve our sacred hymn, silver ribbon in the wind, like honeydew and starlight in the middle of the spring, like hammers in the belly of an ancient metal beast, like morning bells the morning your beloved is deceased. When somewhere in the dark we see new ice begin to form, the captain murmurs courses as the snow turns to a storm. And jarring as a blade as if to rip us from a dream, over all the crowds we hear the captain's bloody scream. Dragon! The masses erupt to madness, gouts of frost fanning over the horizon. Fendry stands and scrambles away. His lyre slams against the deck and barks out a twisted chord. The trio is frozen. Kyra gets on her feet and grabs her things. The duo remains frozen. I look to Lissa. Eyes wide, fingers frigid on the lute. A shadow grows in the sky. What can be done? Either way, our fate is made. I close my eyes and start to play. On I carve our sacred hymn, silver ribbon in the wind, like honeydew and starlight in the middle of the spring, like hammers in the belly of an ancient metal beast, like mourning bells the morning your beloved is deceased. After several moments, Lissa's fingers start to move, every note a spark of warmth and every timbre smooth. Kyra hears the chorus swell and turns back on her heels, reprises her position and resumes her haunting peal. Our music reaches Fendry, somewhere lost within the pack, and in another minute he has fully traced his track. He lifts his lyre from the floor to join in with the tune. What better end to four best friends than soundtracking their doom? Senselessness around us as the ice dragon descends, splintering of wood and steel and bone a frosted mess, gore and soot and ragged lumber, shattered casks of rum. The dragon's beating wings become the beating of our drum. Our wicked ballad crackles as his talons score the mast. My violin stabs violent harmonies over the blasts. Fury in his orbit, iron pikes within his jaw. A blur of chaos and utter destruction, pounding, pounding. The structure of the ship shifts wildly beneath us as it begins to tear asunder. Boom. Steadying my tempo, I take a moment's rest. Boom. Lift my eyes to see the beast ahead prepare his breath. Boom. And strike the final chord upon the moment of my death.
Wow, dude.
Oh,
Jeez.
man.
Was that 500?
Yeah.
Oh, man. In a song, no less.
I know, right?
Kind of
Show
in and out.
off.
It
I
reminds
wanted
me
it
of
to...
Durin's last stand, you know?
From Lord of the Rings? What is that from?
It's from Lord of the Rings when they find. I mean, he's writing his last sonnet as the dudes break in through the door. It's so
Oh, yeah.
cool. Man.
God, you captured one of my most favorite parts of Titanic, too, which was the band that decided to play
Yeah.
and go down with the ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and it's about like two people like across from each other who are like kind of figuring out, and like she starts playing again, and he's like,
Mm-hmm.
"Okay, is what we're doing."
Mm-hmm.
Such a tiny moment, but so huge.
And
Yeah.
dude, I was wondering what the iceberg was gonna be, and then dragon. I was like, yes. So this was
Yeah.
this was Titanic in 900 AD.
Were there dragons in 900 AD?
They are.
Sure.
Ice dragons? Yeah.
Yeah. You're north of the wall. That happens. Oh,
Yeah,
man.
so a few
Nicely
things
done.
I wanted to like at the beginning, like it counts in with the clacks, and then at the end it counts out with the booms of like the
Booms.
ship getting destroyed. So it's like the beat has like theoretically stayed through the song, but the actual verses go in and out of meter completely based on whether the musicians are staying in the moment. It's like
Oh, that's cool.
how deep they get into like the prose being like arranged is like how in the music the main character is. So like when it says like boom, it like goes out of meter for a second while he's like catching himself. Like there's a few sentences that aren't. That don't rhyme.
Oh, nicely done. I love that.
You also have a
So-
chorus in here too.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That is sick. I think we need to turn this into a bard's tale.
Yeah.
We need a mandolin going somewhere.
Well, I've got one.
Hell yeah, that was awesome.
I'm still reading it, but that probably doesn't make for good podcast fodder.
Well, so that was our submissions to that, but then challenge from last week, and we are pretty much wrapped up. The last thing to note is to reiterate that the new challenge is to write a story, 50 to 250 words. Choose about one of the abstract armory weapons we drew today. And to remind you of what those are, you have either A, the terrible horn of the dwarven tribes, which is a Balrog horn. that incinerates you upon use while summoning a Balrog, unless you have the Elven Mouthpiece. Or B, the Hissing Mirror of Kings, which is a mirror that guides you to power with nefarious intentions. So
if you don't know what a Balrog is, look it up. But imagine a huge thing that's on fire, like a big demon that's on fire and has a whip.
Yes, a beast from the ancient world, an
also
ancient
look it
evil.
Up. Yeah, Balrog.
Oh yeah. But yeah, so that wraps it up. Shane, thank you so much for being on. This was freaking awesome. Loved your challenges and all your insight. The lyrical deep dive was amazing. Just had a great time on here. And yeah.
Thanks for having me, boys.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
All right. Well, until next time. Love you.
Let's
dudes.
lift our lyre from the floor to join within the tune. What better end to this podcast than soundtracking our doom?
Yes.
And see.